Feudal Japan was a place of immense beauty, but also of rigid expectations, harsh discipline, and unforgiving hierarchies. In this video, we take a slow and careful walk through the world of samurai, peasants, merchants, monks, and the many forgotten lives that made up medieval Japan. You will learn that life in this era was not romantic or easy. In fact, most people today would not last even a single day. The food, the work, the laws, the culture all were deeply demanding. This story will not rush, it will not excite. Instead, it is designed to calm your mind and gently carry you into rest. So please, listen through to the end, and when the story is over, write in the comments how you feel. Sleepy.com, curious. I would love to hear now. Let us begin. Not with a warlord, not with a battle, but with a field. A quiet, wind-swept field in the Kanto Plain. The year is 1467. The Bon War has just begun. Japan is about to enter one of its most chaotic periods, but in this moment, we are in the countryside, far from Kyoto, where a young peasant boy named Kenji is beginning his day long before sunrise. He is 10 years old. His father has already gone to the rice paddy with tools over his shoulder. The boy must carry water, tend to the chickens, and keep the embers in the hearth alive. There is no schooling, no toys, no breakfast of choice. There is rice, sometimes millet, and sometimes nothing at all. His clothes are simple, made of rough hemp. His sandals are made from straw. There is no time to dream of becoming a samurai. That is not the fate of those born into his status. The social order is absolute. Above Kenji's family are the local landholders, retired warriors who now manage plots granted to them by their overlords. Then come the samurai retainers themselves, loyal to daimyo who control entire provinces. These daimyo themselves answer to the shogun, though by this point, the Ashikaga shogunate is weak, and civil war looms. But Kenji does not know that. He only knows the land, the seasons, and the expectations that do not change. When he is old enough, he will work beside his father all day. If taxes are not paid, punishments will come. If there is famine, the family will tighten their belts. There is no social safety net. There are Buddhist temples, of course, where monks might offer rice or soup, but that is rare and not guaranteed. In the distant mountains, another boy his age might be training with a wooden sword. He might belong to a samurai family. His days are no less structured. He wakes with the sun, bows before his elders, and repeats lessons in calligraphy, strategy, and poetry. He learns to respect death and to embrace it if needed. He learns that dishonor is worse than dying. He practices sword kata in silence. No shouting, no glory, only repetition, day after day. The sword is not for pride, is for duty, and that duty may call upon him to kill, or to die, when ordered. There is no questioning the chain of command. He eats boiled barley and fish, if lucky. He wears a short sword even as a child. He studies the Hogakure if his master owns a copy, and he watches his elders live by the code of Bushido, or at least, the version that had begun to take shape during the constant warfare. Meanwhile, far in the capital, courtiers still dress in layered silk robes and compose delicate waka poems. But their power wanes. The real decisions are made in fortified estates by men in armor. The emperor remains in Kyoto, surrounded by ancient rituals, but he is largely symbolic now. Still, the court holds great cultural power. The kanji characters used in writing, the etiquette of tea and poetry, the very aesthetics of what is considered proper or beautiful all are shaped in these court circles, even as the world outside grows more brutal. For a commoner to glimpse this world is rare. Most never travel far from where they are born. Roads are dangerous. Bandits, wild animals, or samurai disputes can mean death. Travel requires official permission or a compelling reason, often religious pilgrimage. Let us pause on one such journey. A monk from the Tendai school is walking through the forest paths toward a distant shrine. He carries little a small bell. Prayer beads a scroll. He eats when villagers offer him food. He sleeps beneath trees or in the corners of temples. His life is one of simplicity, but not ease. He must navigate the complexities of local power structures, avoid being mistaken for a spy, and maintain his spiritual discipline. At night, he chants sutras softly, not to be heard by others, but to calm his own mind. The world is full of suffering, the Buddha teaches. The monk sees it every day. Disease, war, poverty are constant. And now we move to the other side of this society, to the merchants. Though considered low in status, according to the Confucian ideals adopted by the ruling classes, merchants begin to grow in wealth. In cities like Sakai or Hakata, trade thrives. Silk from China, porcelain, Korean books, and later, Portuguese. Firearms and Catholic missionaries all pass through merchant hands. But wealth does not mean respect. A wealthy merchant may still bow deeply to a poor samurai, for status is not about money, it is about ancestry and duty. Some merchants fund temples or sponsor artists in hopes of earning cultural capital. Still, they are watched, and their sons may never become warriors, no matter how rich they become. As night falls on this imagined day in feudal Japan, we return to the countryside, where Kenji's mother is stoking the fire and whispering prayers to the household gods. The family has placed a small offering before the kamadana, a shelf that honors Shinto spirits. There is sake if they have it, or rice if they do not. The house smells of smoke and old wood. It is cold. Kenji curls beneath a thin blanket. He hears the frogs in the field. He dreams of nothing. The next day will come soon, and it will be just like this one. And now, as your eyes grow heavy, remember that this was only a single day in a world that spanned centuries. Feudal Japan was not a world of constant sword fights or romantic honor. It was mostly silence, duty, structure, and survival. You would not last a day. But for those who did, life carried on, moment by moment, season by season. Morning mist hovers over the village again. The thatched rooftops are damp, and the first sounds of movement come not from people, but from chickens and dogs. The peasants wake early, as they always do, before the sun has fully risen. In this small rural settlement near the base of Mount Hiei, families are already preparing for another day of labor. There are no clocks. Time is measured by the sun, the seasons, and the repetition of chores that never change. Women stoke fires, men hoist tools, and children carry water in wooden buckets with frayed ropes that cut into their palms. There is little spoken, words are not wasted. The soil here is rocky, the fields narrow and sloped. Rice is the lifeblood of the village, but barley, millet, and soybeans fill in the gaps during hard seasons. A tax official will arrive in less than 3 weeks to assess the year's yield. He will not care if there was drought or if pests ate the sprouts. He will demand what is owed to the local lord, who in turn answers to his own superior, and so on, up the chain of authority. The harvest must be enough, or else something else will be taken: firewood, chickens, or labor. Sometimes, if a family truly cannot pay, a daughter is given as compensation, sent to work in a noble house, or worse. The villagers do not speak of this aloud, but everyone knows. They have seen it happen before. In the distance, a procession of ashigaru lightly armored foot soldiers moves down a wooded trail. They are commoners, conscripted into military service. Most were farmers a month ago. Now they carry spears and wear thin iron helmets. Their armor is made of lacquered leather or plates stitched with cord. Their feet ache in worn sandals. They are marching to a skirmish that none of them understand fully. A border dispute between two rival daimyo. One commander insulted another. Now these men walk to die on a muddy field. They do not ask questions. Orders are followed, or punishment follows swiftly. Desertion is a crime met with death, often in brutal fashion. Elsewhere, inside the walled compound of a minor daimyo, the rituals of samurai life continue with the same quiet intensity. Servants sweep the stone paths and rake the gravel into meticulous patterns. The lord of the house has already taken breakfast: white rice, miso soup, pickled vegetables, and grilled fish. His retainers kneel as he speaks. Today, he will receive a letter from the capital, review reports from the border, and oversee archery practice. His sons train daily, drawing their bows slowly, releasing arrows toward straw targets in practiced rhythm. Archery is not for sport. It is part of the art of war. And war never seems far away. The samurai are not all warriors in the sense of constant battle. Most days their lives are more administrative than violent. They read Chinese classics, compose waka poems, and study military texts. They recite passages about loyalty, death, and strategy. They learn restraint, silence, and poise. Some serve as judges or tax overseers. They hold great power over the peasants and craftsmen beneath them, but they too must answer to their superiors, and to the codes of honor that govern their class. A samurai who acts disgracefully, or fails in duty, may be ordered to commit seppuku ritual suicide. It is not a myth. It is a very real part of the culture. The act is brutal and slow. The blade enters the stomach and is drawn from left to right. Another warrior, the kishakunin, may stand ready to decapitate the man if he hesitates or suffers too long. This is not seen as cruelty, it is mercy. Let us walk, for a moment, through the narrow alleys of a town where artisans work. The smith hammers out nails and plowshares. The carpenter smooths beams for a merchant's shop. Nearby, a potter stacks clay bowls into a kiln, their glaze still wet and earthy. These towns are noisy, filled with hammering, sawing, the hiss of boiling dyes, but they are not chaotic. Each artisan knows their place, guilds enforce standards. Apprentices train for years, sometimes decades, before they can open their own shop. Some families pass down one craft for generations. A single mistake in workmanship can mean ruin. A blade that breaks, a roof beam that cracks, such errors are unforgivable. Pride lies in precision. Life is work. At the edge of the town, near the riverbank, a small group of fishermen prepare their nets. The water is cold, but the fish must be caught before the sun rises too high. They take small boats out, paddling silently. The river offers carp, trout, and eels. Sometimes crabs or turtles, but some seasons are harsh. A poor catch can mean hunger. The men work in near silence, eyes scanning the surface, muscles sore from years of repetitive motion. The smell of fish, sweat, and damp wood hangs heavy in the air. On another road, a traveling performer sets up a modest stage near a shrine. He is part of a troupe of no actors, carrying masks, costumes, and scrolls of old plays. They will perform that evening if the weather permits. Their movements will be slow, stylized, haunting. The audience will consist of villagers, monks, and maybe a samurai or two. The performance is not art, it is ritual. Every gesture has meaning. The plays are often tragic, echoing tales of loss, vengeance, or the spirits of the dead. The actor's face, hidden behind a mask, expresses nothing. All emotion is in the voice and the body. Near that same shrine, a small group of pilgrims gathers. They are old and slow, some walking with canes. They chant softly as they move. Each step takes them closer to the mountain temple, where they believe healing or peace may be found. Their journey is not easy, the roads are rough, and bandits still prowl the woods. But faith drives them forward. They carry charms, rosaries, and sometimes small wooden statues of the Buddha. They bow at crossroads. They share food. They speak little. Their minds are focused inward as twilight falls again across the land. Oil lamps are lit, casting soft orange glow on paper screens. The smell of wood smoke rises from chimneys. In one house, a family shares a simple meal, legs folded on tatami mats. They speak softly, if at all. The children are already drowsy. Outside, the frogs begin their nightly chorus. A cat prowls along a fence. The stars emerge, faint through the clouds. Somewhere in the distance, a flute plays a lonely melody, slow and repeating. Life in feudal Japan was not fast. It was not loud. It was a cycle of labor, honor, fear, and beauty in silence. Each person had a place, and to stray from that place could mean ruin. There was strength and structure, but also immense pressure. Each moment had weight. Each word, each action, each glance could bring favor or shame. And yet people endured. For generations they endured. Through war, drought, peace, and rebellion. And now, you drift with them, carried by time, lulled by the steady rhythm of a world long gone. The morning begins again, as it always does, with the sound of wooden clappers echoing from a temple bell tower. The rhythm is slow, deliberate, and carries through the mist that still clings to the rooftops. A monk in plain robes, head shaved, feet bare against the chill stones, begins his daily chants before the altar. The scrolls before him are old, some copied by hand decades ago. The air inside the temple is cool and smells of incense and old cedar. Candles flicker softly as he recites the Heart Sutra, syllable by syllable. Never rushed, there is no audience. This is not for show. It is part of the rhythm of the day, a rhythm that has existed long before he was born, and will continue long after he is gone. In the same village below, a widow wakes slowly. Her hands ache from years of labor, her back bends slightly as she rises. She prepares rice gruel over a small fire and feeds it to her grandson, whose parents died during a recent skirmish between rival lords. No one speaks of it now. The boy knows only that he must be obedient, respectful, and quiet. His toys are pebbles and sticks. His games are simple. His responsibilities are not. He must carry firewood, sweep the floor, and bow to elders. There is no expectation that his life will be different from the lives that came before. Social mobility is almost non-existent. Born a peasant, he will likely die a peasant. The land is divided into countless small plots, most controlled by local lords who are themselves vassals of more powerful daimyo. The rice tax is measured carefully, each bundle weighed, recorded, and often taken away to supply the needs of armies, castles, or trade. There is no money in most rural areas. Payments are made in rice, in cloth, in labor. Bartering is common, but fairness is not guaranteed. If a samurai demands something, it is given, regardless of what the peasant might think or feel. To object would be dishonor, and dishonor invites punishment. Now, we drift further into the countryside, where a fortified manor house rises at the edge of a forest. This is not a grand castle of stone and towers, but a modest stronghold with wooden palisades and watchtowers. Within its walls live the retainers of a lesser noble. There are guards, scribes, servants, and stable boys. The noble himself spends the early morning in discussion with his advisors about land disputes and military readiness. He does not govern with fairness alone, he governs with necessity. Every decision must reinforce loyalty. Every action must secure his standing in the endless web of power. Inside a training courtyard, young samurai practice iijutsu, the art of drawing and cutting with a sword in one motion. The movements are precise, rehearsed thousands of times. The swords are not sharp during training, but the discipline is real. One misstep can mean shame. One lapse in focus may draw rebuke. In another building, a calligraphy master teaches kanji characters, drawn slowly with brush and ink on rice paper. The students bow, remain silent, and hold their breath as they write. Even penmanship reflects character. A strong samurai must be learned, not merely skilled in combat. Bar away. In the old capital of Nara, Buddhist monks tend to ancient temples. They copy scrolls, repair statues, and debate subtle points of doctrine. Some temples have grown wealthy through donations and land ownership, while others struggle to survive. Rivalries exist even within the spiritual world. Different sects argue over interpretations, while still offering alms to pilgrims and tending to the dead. In quiet graveyards, shaded by pine trees, small wooden grave markers lean against the wind. Names fade over time, but incense is still lit, prayers still whispered. The dead are not forgotten, even if their lives were hard and short. Let us pause. Now, in a household of craftsmen, this one specializes in lacquerware. The smell of sap, smoke, and wood hangs thick in the air. A father and son work side by side, applying layer after layer of lacquer to bowls and trays. The process is slow. Each layer must dry completely before the next is added. The result, after weeks or months, is a piece of shimmering black or red ware, polished to a soft gleam. These items may be sold in distant towns, carried on foot, or by ox cart. But competition is fierce and profits small. The son dreams of making something for a daimyo's court someday, but such hopes are fragile. Elsewhere, in town, a mother weaves cloth on a wooden loom. Her fingers move rhythmically, pulling thread after thread through the frame. Her eldest daughter dyes the finished cloth with plant-based pigments, turning the fibers blue, brown, or a muted red. Their work clothes are plain and faded, but the bolts of finished cloth are carefully folded and kept clean. Clothing, though simple, is valued. A kimono may last many years and be patched dozens of times. Silk is rare, worn only by the elite. Most wear cotton or hemp. Comfort is not expected. Endurance is as the sun rises higher. Samurai messengers ride out from a provincial stronghold. Their message is sealed with wax, bound in silk cord, and carried with absolute seriousness. Speed is essential, but so is formality. The horse's hooves pound against dirt roads. The rider wears 2 swords, as is required of all samurai. Even a simple courier may be called upon to defend his message. Bandits are a constant threat, and so are ambushes by rival lords. Nothing is assumed to be safe. A lone traveler must be ready for anything, even death. In the coastal ports, ships are arriving from distant shores. Chinese junks, Korean traders, and later, Portuguese caravels bring goods and foreign ideas. The ruling classes are wary. Christianity begins to spread, introduced by Jesuit missionaries. Crosses are worn, prayers are whispered in Latin. Some daimyo convert, hoping to gain favor and trade opportunities. Others resist fiercely, viewing the religion as foreign and destabilizing. Tensions rise, converts are watched. Foreigners are regulated, and yet, the flow of goods continues. Firearms, silk, medicines, glassware. Some fear change, but many crave what is new. Now we return to the forests of Japan, where hidden communities of Yamabushi Mountain, ascetics live apart from society. These men blend Shinto beliefs, esoteric Buddhism, and folk practices. They walk barefoot, carry conch-shell trumpets, and wear garments of bark and cloth. Their practices are intense fasting, meditation under freezing waterfalls, physical hardship. They are said to possess spiritual powers. Villagers both fear and respect them. Some believe they can summon rain or repel illness. Others say they speak with spirits, but they do not seek fame. Their world is high, cold, and silent. In a small village, a festival begins. Lanterns are hung, drums are brought out, and sake is brewed. This is not luxury, it is ritual. The gods must be honored. The rice harvest is coming. If the spirits are not pleased, the weather may turn, the crops may rot. So the villagers sing, dance slowly in a circle, and offer food to the local shrine. A priest in white robes waves sacred branches. Children laugh for the first time in days, but the celebration is brief. By dawn, work begins again. Life in feudal Japan offered few choices. To be born into a role was to live it fully. Every day was shaped by obligations, by repetition, and by careful balance between duty and survival. And yet, within that narrow space, people found moments of peace watching the rain on thatch roofs, listening to the sound of wind and bamboo, or hearing the laughter of children chasing dragonflies in the evening mist. It was not an easy life. It was not one most would endure today, but it was a life, and for those within it, it was all they knew. Another morning settles gently across the valleys and foothills of feudal Japan. A layer of dew glistens softly atop leaves and rooftops, and the bamboo groves rustle faintly in the breeze. There are no carriages rushing past, no chimneys belching smoke from tall stone towers. There is only the soft, steady creak of a water wheel by a stream, and the distant crow of a rooster beginning its cry. In a small peasant hamlet built along a bend in the river, men rise to tend their fields once more, gripping wooden hoes worn smooth by generations of calloused hands. This particular village belongs to a fief, controlled by a mid-ranking daimyo, who lives miles away, near the coast. He has never seen the village himself. His tax collectors visit twice a year, recording the rice output and checking ledgers with quiet, impersonal efficiency. The villagers bow deeply and say little. Any mistake in accounting is not debated, is accepted, even if it means going hungry. Those unable to meet quotas must borrow from wealthier neighbors or forfeit their small tools. Sometimes they must send their children to serve in another household. There is no system of appeal, only patience and silence. The peasants live in homes built of wood and straw, often just a single room. The walls are thin, and smoke from the hearth darkens the beams above. There are no windows with glass, just wooden shutters or paper screens. In the corner, a bundle of straw mats is stacked for sleeping. The meals are humble: rice if available, millet if not, and dried radish, pickled plum, and small river fish when fortune allows. The teapot rarely leaves the hearth. Water must be drawn and boiled. The fire must be fed with bundles of gathered sticks, carried in by children or elders. Children, even the very young, have roles to play. They chase birds from the rice paddies, gather insects, strip bark, fetch water, or help twist rope. Schooling is rare unless a temple school lies nearby. Instead, they learn through observation. They copy what they see. They bow when others bow. They listen without speaking. They learn how to live in a world that gives little, demands much, and rewards only those who endure. As we move away from the paddies and into the lower mountains, we find isolated shrines tucked under the shade of towering cedars. Their wooden gates are weathered but still standing. Monks here tend to the kami, the spirits of Shinto belief. These spirits are not gods in the Western sense. They are presences of rocks, trees, rivers, and ancestors. Rituals are simple: offerings of rice, sake, or salt. Clapping hands to summon the spirit, bowing twice, silence follows. Not all villagers understand the doctrines, but they respect them. Even those who seldom pray will bow when passing the shrine. Nearby, a small group of hunters prepare to enter the forest. They are not warriors. They do not wear armor or carry swords. Instead, they dress in rough fabric, their feet wrapped in straw sandals, their heads covered against insects. Their tools are bows, nets, and small knives. They know where the deer graze and where the boars dig. Hunting is not sport, it is necessity. The meat is dried and preserved. The bones are used for tools. The hides become winter shoes. Every part of the animal is used, and each kill is followed by a whispered prayer of thanks. Elsewhere, on a narrow mountain pass, a traveling merchant leads his horse along a steep, muddy path. His goods are bundled in cloth sacks, herbs, fabrics, iron nails, or bowls of lacquerware. He travels alone, occasionally joining others on the road for safety. He wears no armor, carries no weapon but a short knife. He knows the risk of bandits. He has been robbed before. Still, he walks. He visits villages, barters wares, and gathers news. In a world without newspapers or radios, these men become the threads that connect far-off places. In a castle compound, far from the villages, a powerful daimyo sits in his formal chamber, surrounded by his advisors. He wears robes of silk and rests against a cushion embroidered with his family's crest. The castle is a structure of wood and stone, built atop a hill and surrounded by moats and watchtowers. Couriers bring news of neighboring lords, skirmishes along borders, the movements of enemy troops. Every word spoken in the chamber carries weight. Even a careless comment may shape policy or provoke suspicion. The daimyo must show strength at all times, even when he doubts. Weakness invites betrayal. Within the same compound, women of the noble household carry out their own daily rituals. They are not idle. Some are highly educated, able to write poetry in Chinese characters, play the koto, or compose letters of great sophistication. Others serve in more practical roles: sewing, preparing meals, managing servants. The lady of the house oversees these affairs with quiet authority. She knows her duties well. She keeps her household disciplined, her clothing precise, her children obedient. To fail in etiquette is to shame her husband and her family line. Shame spreads quickly, like ink on rice paper. Let us now follow a group of ashigaru returning from battle. Their armor is dusty, their faces hollow from exhaustion. They were not born warriors, but farmers who answered the call of their lord. In battle, they carried spears, pikes, or simple swords. They followed orders, shouted over drums and banners. They slept in the dirt, ate what they could find, and feared the samurai who commanded them more than the enemy. Some watched comrades fall trampled by horses or struck by arrows. Now, they return home. Some with injuries, some with no reward. Their families are relieved, but celebrations are subdued. The war may call them again, Along the coast, fishermen mend their nets. The sun is low, casting long shadows across the sand. Their boats are pulled ashore, turned upside down for repair. Salt from the sea crusts their clothing. The work is constant. Fish are gutted, salted, and stored in wooden crates. Their wives prepare them for sale, wrapping them in straw or placing them in baskets. The children run barefoot among the boats, shouting and chasing gulls. It is the only time they truly laugh. The tide will rise again soon, and their fathers will go back to sea. Meanwhile, a group of students gathers in a temple school where a learned monk teaches them to read and write. They sit cross-legged on mats, their writing boards propped before them. They use ink made from soot and water, dipped with brushes made of animal hair. The characters are foreign to their mouths, but familiar to their hands. Chinese classics, Buddhist sutras, historical tales of noble heroes, these fill the hours of study. The students do not ask questions, they memorize, recite, and copy. Knowledge is a privilege, not a right. As the day fades again into twilight, and paper lanterns are lit along garden paths, the world grows quiet. The clatter of tools fades, the cries of animals still. A priest rings a bell in the distance. A woman offers a bowl of rice before the family altar, lighting incense for her father, who died years before. She bows twice, her hands pressed gently. Together, the smoke rises slowly, twisting in the air before fading. The household gathers for a meal, knees tucked beneath the table, heads bowed in thanks. No prayers spoken aloud, but gratitude expressed in silence. Evening in feudal Japan is not a time of noise. It is a time of reflection, of small sounds, the creak of wood, the whistle of wind, the murmur of a stream outside the window. People do not speak much after dark. Candles are precious. Fire is feared. A single spark can destroy an entire village, so most rest early, wrapped in quilts on straw mats. Bodies sore, but minds still turning with thoughts of duty, family, survival, and the spirits who watch from the forests beyond. It is a world of structure, repetition, hardship, and silence. One day may feel like the next, but within those days are stories of loyalty, of quiet strength, of unseen beauty. And now, as the night deepens, you too may feel the weight of that world settle around you. Not heavy, but soft, like falling ash, like the sound of sandals on a gravel path beneath the moonlight. In the calm lull of another misty morning, before the sun breaks through the thin veil of clouds, the stillness of feudal Japan feels like something ancient and unshaken. It is a land where each movement, each duty, each quiet moment is guided by centuries-old customs. The seasons rule the pace of life. Spring brings cherry blossoms that fall like snow, covering temples and rooftops in soft pink blankets. Summer arrives with the hum of cicadas and the weight of humid air. Autumn coats the hillsides in flaming reds and yellows, while winter turns the villages inward, burying the fields in silence and frost. There is no rush to break the cycle. There is no need to dot in a merchant's home in a busy post town. The family prepares for a long day. The husband, not of noble blood but of clever mind, arranges bolts of cloth and wooden combs on a simple display rack made of bamboo. His shop is no more than an open room facing the dirt road, yet travelers stop, curious about his wares. His wife serves tea to guests. Their eldest daughter greets customers with practiced bows. Their youngest son, not yet trained in numbers, runs errands between shops, barefoot and grinning. They do not live lavishly, but they live steadily, their success dependent on politeness, consistency, and a little luck. Merchants are not honored in the way samurai or priests are. They are tolerated, their position low in the social hierarchy, despite their financial role. Yet some accumulate wealth quietly, owning rice storehouses, loaning money discreetly, and expanding family businesses from town to town. They are careful, never to boast, never to show off, always to bow lower than a warrior or court official. They build their legacies in ledger books, and behind shoshi screens, not in palaces or scrolls of praise. Their power is quiet and cautious. Meanwhile, in a large city like Kyoto, artisans gather in narrow alleys to prepare their goods. A swordsmith stokes his furnace long before sunrise. His apprentice pumps the bellows until his arms ache. The metal glows orange, hisses underwater, and sparks fly with each strike of the hammer. It takes days to forge a blade, weeks to polish and finish it. But the master works without complaint. His name depends on precision, and his reputation may carry on through generations of blades. Each sword is signed, not for pride, but for record. If the blade fails, it is the name that bears the shame. Next door, a maker of umbrellas wraps paper around bamboo frames, dipping the finished pieces in oil to make them their assistant. They are simple tools, but each must be perfect. Elsewhere, a woman applies gold leaf to folding screens, pressing the delicate metal into place with brushes made of fox hair. Artisans do not live as nobles, but they understand beauty as deeply as any court poet. Their fingers are stained, their eyes often tired, but their work is their offering to the culture they serve. We step now into the domain of the courtiers. Though much of political power has shifted to the provinces, the imperial court in Kyoto still lingers, its elegance untouched by warfare. Men and women in layered robes read poetry aloud, compose letters written on scented paper, and recite tales of ancient love under candlelight. The court's rituals are bound by form and language. Politeness is a performance. A bowed head must not drop too low. A fan must be held at a precise angle. A phrase must be spoken with both humility and flair. Life here is not survival, but symbolism. And yet, even here, life is not free of hardship. While the courtiers avoid the violence of war, they suffer in their own quiet way, dependent on patronage. Fearful of losing favor, trapped in the slow decay of political irrelevance, many become monks or retreat to country villas, choosing poetry and philosophy over power. They are not poor, but they are not powerful. Their role is one of memory, preserving the elegance of the past, even as the world beyond their gardens grows harsher and more unpredictable. Let us follow a pilgrim now, traveling on foot to a holy site nestled in the mountains. He carries a walking staff and a straw hat, his belongings wrapped in a cloth bundle on his back. He chants short verses with each step, his breath visible in the cool morning air. Pilgrimage is an act of devotion, but also one of endurance. The paths are steep, the weather uncertain, the lodging sparse. Along the way, he stays at temple inns, sleeps under trees, and sometimes accepts food from passing villagers. He does not ask for more. The journey itself is the purpose. At a quiet rest stop, he washes his feet in a cold stream and eats dried rice balls. He meets another traveler, a woman carrying offerings for her ancestors. They speak briefly, mostly in nods and small phrases. There is no need for long conversation. The road is long, and silence is sacred. They part as gently as they met, returning to their separate roads, their footsteps fading into the rustle of leaves overhead. In the shadow of a great castle wall, a samurai of middle rank returns from his daily duties. His armor has been polished, his swords sharpened and inspected, yet he did not fight today. He sat in council, reviewed scrolls of local disputes, and oversaw repairs to the outer walls. A warrior must also be a bureaucrat. Letters must be written in proper hand, decisions recorded with precision, petitions heard with fairness or, at least with careful calculation. There is as much danger in politics as in combat. A misjudged land dispute can ignite rebellion. A wrongly punished vassal may turn traitor. He removes his armor slowly, piece by piece, hanging it carefully in a wooden rack. His servant brings tea. He sits before a simple scroll depicting a mountain in the mist. He watches the steam rise from the cup outside. A flute plays somewhere faintly. He does not speak. He does not sleep yet. He simply sits. This is not boredom, it is presence. A moment without motion, without ambition. A moment so rare in a world of order and expectation. And nearby, in a thatch roof hut, an old woman sits beside a charcoal brazier, telling a story to her granddaughter. The tale is of a fox spirit who tricked a lord, or a carp that became a dragon. Her voice is soft, steady. The child listens with wide eyes, clutching a piece of woven cloth. These stories are not just entertainment, they are lessons. They are memory. They carry the fears and hopes of countless generations, passed down like the patterns of cloth or the way to fold a robe. In a world where books are rare, the spoken word matters deeply. Poets compose verses with just a few lines, trying to capture a season, a moment, a breath of wind. A lone scholar might spend a week choosing the right word. A letter may take an afternoon to write. There is reverence for language, even in silence. A pause can be a message. A bow can be an answer. A single syllable, spoken too soon or too late, may alter the course of a life that as the sun fades once more, casting golden light across distant ridgelines. The sound of crickets begins again. Children are called inside. The fire is stirred for warmth. The paper doors are slid shut. A man rinses his face at the well before sleep. A woman combs her long hair, counting each stroke. Somewhere in a shrine a bell rings once. The world begins to rest. This is not a world of ease. It is not a world of indulgence. It is a world shaped by repetition, by belief, by duty and resilience. To live in feudal Japan is to walk a narrow path, bordered on all sides by tradition, hierarchy, and nature's quiet power. And yet, within these bounds, people found dignity. They found grace in the smallest things. The bloom of a plum blossom, the hush of snow on stone, the sound of temple bells echoing through mist. Now, with the night pressing gently against the paper screens and your thoughts drifting with the pace of this distant past, you may find, as they did, a quiet place within. Silence, place to breathe, to listen, to simply be. The air is cooler now. Morning in the highlands of feudal Japan often begins with a chill that creeps into the bones. A faint mist clings to the slopes of the pine-covered hills, rolling gently down into valleys where rice paddies stretch like great mirrors of the sky. Birds stir in the branches. Insects begin their soft chorus. A farmer wakes before the light has reached his doorway. There is no alarm, no ringing bell. Only the rhythm of habit, a life shaped by sun and season and the quiet murmur of necessity. His feet touch the floor, the packed dirt smooth beneath his straw bedding. He pulls on layers of worn hemp clothing. He moves without sound, without rush. The fire in the hearth has long since burned low. He stokes it with dry twigs until a small flame flickers, enough to heat water. His wife prepares the morning meal. Plain rice, if they are fortunate, millet if not, served with a pickled plum or miso soup, brewed from the leftover scraps of yesterday. There are no complaints. Complaints are not useful. They are luxuries for a different world. Their eldest son joins him outside. Shoulders stiff from sleep, hands already calloused despite his youth. Together they lift tools made from wood and iron and walk the same foot-worn paths to the fields. The work is repetitive, loosening earth, clearing weeds, checking for damage from last night's wind or animals. Every moment has a purpose. Every action a consequence. A missed patch of insects can ruin a season's yield. A damaged irrigation gate can flood a neighbor's land. The consequences are not just agricultural, they are social, and therefore, deeply serious. Further along the road, a small group of monks pass in silent procession. They wear simple robes and carry bowls. They do not speak unless spoken to. Their heads are shaved, their sandals caked with dust. They are not begging, they are allowing others to give. It is an offering as much for the giver as the receiver. A spoonful of rice, a handful of barley, a few pickled greens. Each donation is accepted with a bow, each gesture met with gratitude and prayer. They walk from village to village not to escape the world, but to move more gently within it. At the edge of a fishing town, boats bob in the harbor. The tide pulls against their hulls with a quiet rhythm. Fishermen coil their ropes, repair their nets, and sort their catch. The work is as ancient as the sea. Fish are salted and laid out on wooden slats to dry in the rising sun. The scent is strong, but not unpleasanted is the smell of sustenance, of trade, of routine. Nearby, women clean shells and gut smaller fish for preservation. They hum softly as they work. They speak little, not because they are unfriendly, but because the tasks require their full attention. Children in the town gather shells, chase dogs, or play simple games with pebbles and sticks. Some are assigned errands, learning early that their time is not their own. A child in feudal Japan is not a separate category, but a small, developing part of a tightly woven whole. Discipline is expected. Respect is taught before the child can write, elders are obeyed, rules are followed. There is no celebration of individuality, but rather a deep-rooted pride in contribution and harmony. Inside a home of a lower-ranking samurai, the day begins differently. The man of the house practices with his sword. His wife helps prepare his armor. She polishes his greaves, tightens the cords, and inspects the helmet's crest. They speak in low tones. The armor is not for battle today, but for ceremony at the local lord's compound. Appearances matter. Even in times of peace, the warrior must appear ready. Strength must not only be possessed, but shown. A sword unsheathed too often is dangerous, but a sword too long sheathed is suspect. The samurai son is being trained in both swordsmanship and letters. He kneels for long hours copying Chinese classics, lifting his brush with great care. The ink must be smooth, the strokes precise. A crooked line is not just a flaw in calligraphy, it reflects on the boy's character. His tutor says little, but watches closely. The boy will learn the history of past wars, the tales of noble ancestors, the laws of conduct, and the rules of poetic form. He must be a warrior, a scholar, and an example to others. The burden is heavy, and he knows this already. Meanwhile, in a distant castle town, the local magistrate oversees the daily affairs of justice. Peasants arrive with disputes over property lines, livestock, unpaid debts, or damaged goods. The magistrate listens, often in silence, as the parties explain their cases. Witnesses speak, documents are unrolled. The verdicts are not based on abstract rights, but on maintaining order and social balance. A harsh sentence may be necessary, not because of guilt alone, but to prevent further disruption. Punishment is both correction and message. The courthouse is not grand. Its authority lies not in its architecture, but in its function. Outside, townsfolk sweep the roads in front of their homes. Cleanliness is not just hygiene, it is harmony. Waste invites imbalance. Decay invites spirits. The gutters must flow. The walkways must be tidy. A dirty street is a sign of disrespect to both neighbor and nature. Even the smallest houses maintain this custom. A bucket of water, a broom of bundled reeds, and a few quiet minutes each morning. These are not chores. They are rituals. They shape the world. At the same hour, deep within a temple high in the mountains, monks chant in long, low tones. The halls are lined with statues of bodhisattvas, the air thick with incense, candles flicker, silence dominates. Meditation sessions are long and difficult. Legs cramp, thoughts wander, but the monk returns again and again to the stillness. It is not peace he seeks, but discipline. Enlightenment is not sudden. It is the slow wearing down of ego, like water smoothing stone. Years may pass before clarity appears, and even then, it comes quietly, without announcement. Farther west, a small village is in mourning. A respected elder has passed away during the night. His family prepares the body with care, washing him and dressing him in clean robes. The villagers bring offerings: rice, incense, coins, cloth. There is no wailing, no display. Grief is folded. Inward, a small shrine is constructed beside the home. The priest arrives to perform the rites. Prayers are chanted, bells are rung, paper symbols are burned. The body is carried away in a procession of bowed heads. The smoke rises slowly into the blue sky, disappearing like breath in winter. At the same moment, a bridal procession forms in a neighboring province. A young woman leaves her family's home, her face hidden by a white hood. She walks slowly, led by musicians playing flutes and drums. Her husband's family waits at the gate of their compound. She has met the man only a few times, spoken to him even less. Yet she bows and enters, crossing the threshold with measured steps. Her life, from this day forward, will be different. She will serve her new family with obedience, manage the household, bear children, and preserve the honor of both lines. She does not cry, she bows, as the sun arcs slowly westward and the shadows stretch long across the earth. Time does not hurry. There is no race, no urgency. Only the steady rhythm of actions repeated across seasons, years, and lifetimes. Every person, from peasant to priest to warrior, plays a role. And while the path is narrow and often difficult, it is understood. The rules are known, the expectations are clear. It is a life not of freedom, but of structure. And when night falls once again, soft and unbroken, lanterns are lit, meals are shared quietly, stories are told, not loudly, but gently, so as not to wake those already asleep. In the quiet homes of feudal Japan, the rustle of a sleeping robe, the creak of wood underfoot, the gentle hiss of the hearth, these are the only sounds. The moonlight touches the corners of paper screens. Shadows settle like silk. You may feel it now, the weight and softness of that world pressing against your thoughts. A life so far from ours, yet carried still in echoes. It is not a place of ease. It is not a place you would last long, but it is a place of patience, and perhaps, in that patience, you find a stillness you did not know you needed. The night lingers longer than expected. Beneath the tatami-matted floors of modest countryside homes, the cold seeps upward, forcing sleepers to wrap themselves tighter in their futons. The stillness of early morning is complete. There are no wheels rattling across cobblestones, no city cries, or the clamor of commerce. Only the soft murmur of a distant stream, perhaps the hoot of an owl, still watching from the branches of a cypress tree, and the occasional low groan of wooden walls. Adjusting to temperature and time, before first light, the first to stir is often the oldest in the household. In feudal Japan, age is not a quiet retreat but a rule of dignity and duty. The grandmother, whose back is slightly bowed from decades of harvesting, lifts herself with practiced slowness. Her first task is to kindle the fire. She crouches near the hearth, placing bits of dry pine and shredded bark from the woodbox. The smell of smoke returns to the house like an old friend. The children still sleep. They will rise only when the scent of cooking miso reaches their noses. In the fields, the morning dew glistens along each blade of young rice. Farmers carry bundles of straw and hand tools over their shoulders, following trails worn so deep they seem like riverbeds. The paddies require constant care this week. It is weeding. Next week, pest control. There is no season without labor. Even in winter, when the fields freeze and the ground is unworkable, there is firewood to chop, tools to repair, and thatched roofs to patch. Not far from these fields, in a small tea house that opens only at dawn, a merchant drinks quietly. He is traveling between market towns, his cart packed with goods from the coastal city: silks, lacquered boxes, dried seafood, perhaps a rare Chinese medicine. His road is not without danger. Bandits still roam in rural districts, and while they seldom challenge groups of armed samurai, a lone trader is a tempting mark. He rests here not because it is safe, but because this tea house is known to the local road guards. Its walls carry the scent of green tea and smoked fish. The benches are hard, but clean. The tea is brewed not quickly but carefully. Water is heated to the right temperature, not boiling, and poured over finely powdered matcha. A young girl, trained by her mother and grandmother, whisks it using a bamboo chasen. She does not speak. She bows when placing the cup before him. The ritual, even here, is unbroken. In feudal Japan, service is not submission, it is performance, discipline, and harmony wrapped into a gesture. Elsewhere, in a small school nestled behind a Buddhist temple, boys from several nearby villages kneel before low writing desks. Their instructor wears faded robes, his voice a low persistent drone as he recites passages from Confucian texts. The boys copy with brushes dipped in black ink, characters forming slowly on thick paper. They are not just learning to write, they are learning to endure, kneeling for hours, controlling the wrist, focusing the mind. Occasionally, the sound of a slap startles a bird from the rafters. A boy has made a mistake, or moved too much, or spoken without permission. The discipline is swift but not cruel. It is formative. The girls are not present. Their education takes a different form, mostly within the home. They learn to spin thread, to sew kimono, to care for infants, to prepare meals according to the seasonal cycles. Their literacy, when it comes, is practical. Ledgers, household records, occasional poetry. In higher class families, noble girls are taught calligraphy, court etiquette, and music. But even there, it is preparation for marriage. There is always a role to be filled, a balance to be maintained. Within a castle, deeper in the domain of a regional lord, another world hums to life. Here, retainers dress with precision, armor is checked by servants, and horses are fed and brushed. The lord, a daimyo, begins his day not with reflection, but with reports. Scrolls are brought to him detailing rice production, military readiness, village complaints, tax collection, and border patrols. He listens, speaks little, and gives orders that ripple outward like stones dropped in water. A retainer bows low, bearing the news that a distant village has not paid its full share. The reason is unclear, perhaps crop failure, perhaps theft, perhaps local rebellion, still unspoken. The lord raises an eyebrow. A group will be dispatched to investigate. Not a large group, lest it suggests war. Not too small, lest it invite defiance. This is politics in feudal Japan, measured, slow, precise. Further down the social ladder, an Ashigaruwa foot soldier cleans his spear. He is not a samurai by birth, but serves under one. His armor is patched, made of iron and lacquered leather. Held together with cords, he ties himself each morning. He drills daily in the courtyard with others like him, learning formations, marching in rhythm, lifting weapons in unison. He does not expect glory, he expects a bowl of rice, a coin for his family, and a roof over his head. In battle, he will run forward, not because of courage, but because not running would mean shame or worse. Punishment. In the forest outside a small village, a hunter watches a boar's trail. He wears no armor, only thick, weathered clothing, and carries a bow made from bamboo and horn. His quiver is nearly empty. He waits, silent, his breath misting in the morning air. Hunting is dangerous if the arrow misses, or only wounds. The boar may charge. Still, the meat will feed his family, and perhaps his neighbors too. The hide will be dried, the bones saved. Nothing is wasted. In feudal Japan, every object has a use. Even the cracked bowls are kept for mixing paints. Even broken sandals for kindling. At midday, in the market of a mid-sized town, noise returns to the world. Merchants call from behind their stalls. Women examine baskets of dried fish and salted plums. Children dart between feet, laughing, until a parent scolds them sharply. A traveling performer sings an old tale of a woman turned fox spirit, tapping a biwa as he chants. Few stop to listen, most pass him by. But an elderly man pauses, sets down his bundle, and closes his eyes as if remembering something long ago. The performer nods, not breaking rhythm. He sings for the old man, and for himself. A little further down the lane, a blacksmith works beside a glowing forge. The rhythm of hammer against metal is relentless. Sparks fly. His apprentice bellows. The flames hotter, then steps back quickly. They are shaping a sickle, not a sword. Most of their work is agricultural, not martial. Blades for farmers, nails for repairs, tools for masons. The swordsmiths are different, they work elsewhere, in hidden shops under the patronage of powerful clans. Their techniques are secrets, their work slow, costly, almost sacred. As the sun lowers again, shadows stretch across the gravel paths and paper lanterns are hung from wooden eaves. The evening meal is cooked slowly over charcoal. The smoke rises straight into the pale sky. A father returns from the field, his sleeves dark with sweat and soil. A mother ladles soup into bowls. A child offers a clumsy but sincere bow before eating. Chopsticks lift without waste. Every grain of rice matters. Silence is not uncomfortable. It is the expected mood of the meal. Talking too much is discouraged. One must eat with respect. In the castle, the daimyo hosts a small gathering. Courtiers play a quiet game of go. Musicians pluck the strings of a koto seki is poured. There is laughter, but it is soft and measured. No one grows loud. Everyone watches the Lord's mood. He smiles, but never broadly. His eyes give away nothing. It is a gathering, not a party. In feudal Japan, too much joy invites suspicion. Too much ease invites fate's correction. When night has fully descended, the world folds into stillness once more. Lamps are extinguished one by one. Doors are latched. Crickets resume their patient song. In every house, futons are rolled out. Heads rest on wooden pillows. The last words spoken are soft, often prayers or thanks. Even in the smallest hut or the grandest mansion, sleep arrives not with dreams of adventure, but with the slow letting go of duty, ritual, and form. And as you listen, perhaps you too feel that rhythmed a quiet pattern of days long gone, steady, as a temple bell in winter fog. Not a life you would choose, not a life you would likely endure, but a life nonetheless filled with meaning, with order, with the deep silence of centuries. The moon above the rooftops sheds a silvery light over the clustered villages and quiet hamlets of feudal Japan. In this moment, when the noise of the day has fully faded, the country seems entirely still, suspended between breath and silence. Even the dogs do not bark. The rustling of bamboo leaves in the wind is the loudest sound, and it is not loud at all. For the common people and the noble alike, night is not a time for leisure, but for rest brief, necessary, and undisturbed. But there are those who do not sleep. Watchmen patrol the outer walls of the castle, alert for shadows and disturbances. They carry wooden clappers, meant not to catch an enemy, but to alert others in the event of danger. In the towns, firekeepers remain on duty. Fires are dangerous in wooden settlements, and one spark can destroy an entire block of homes. These keepers make rounds, chanting low warnings, Hai no Yujin they call, a reminder to be careful. With fire, their voices echo in the alleys. Most do not awaken to hear them, but they chant anyway. It is their task. Elsewhere, in a temple nestled among cedar groves, a monk kneels in front of a brazier. The light flickers against the painted walls, casting shifting shadows of bodhisattvas and lotus flowers. He chants sutras softly, his voice trained in the old tonal rhythms of China. He does not pause or hasten. The words are not for meaning, but for motion, a steady rhythm to still the mind. Around him, other monks sleep in their robes, heads shaved. Clean dreams left behind. Morning comes again, slowly. Mist curls through the valley, the sun hidden behind pale clouds. Dew settles on roof tiles, on worn sandals, on rice stalks waiting in tight rows. In the home of a low-ranking samurai, a young man begins his day with sword practice. He steps into the courtyard barefoot, the chill of the stones pressing up through his feet. He draws his katana slowly, reverently, holding it out in front of him as he breathes. Each movement is precise, learned over years, repeated every morning without fail. He does not expect battle. He trains because that is the way, not to fight but to be ready. His life is not one of glory. He maintains records for a higher-ranking official, copies scrolls with a steady hand, and walks between buildings to deliver messages. Sometimes he stands guard at the compound gates, bowing to guests and ensuring their sandals are lined up properly at the door. His armor is not new, it has been passed down. His blade was his father's. His salary is meager, and most of it goes to rice and candles. Still, he walks with dignity. He is a samurai. Even a poor one carries the weight of the Kodbushido, the way of the warrior. In a larger city, beyond the countryside and the castle towns, life is louder but no less disciplined. Here, the streets bustle earlier. Fishermen haul their catches. Through narrow alleys, washerwomen carry bundles to the river. Apprentices sweep storefronts and roll up bamboo shutters. A cook ladles rice into wooden tubs for travelers who will pass through soon. The noise builds slowly, a hum, a buzz, not chaotic, but woven together like a silk thread through fabric. Everyone knows their role. Within a larger estate, preparations begin for a wedding. The daughter of a mid-ranking samurai is to be married to the son of a local tax official. The arrangement was made months ago. The bride-to-be sits quietly as attendants arrange her hair, applying thick white powder to her face, brushing her lips with red. Her eyes remain downcast. She says nothing. This is her duty. Her kimono has been prepared carefully, each layer selected for its seasonal and symbolic meaning. The outer robe is embroidered with crane symbols of longevity and fortune. Elsewhere, in the same city, an elderly craftsman begins his day carving netsuke, small ornamental toggles used to fasten items to the sashes of men's kimonos. His tools are simple: knives, chisels, files. His materials include ivory, wood, and antler. Each piece takes days to complete. He works slowly, his hands steady despite age. He no longer sees clearly, but he knows the motion by heart. His son, now runs the shop. He carves for pleasure, not profit. A visitor from the north once asked why he worked so long on such a small object. He only smiled and replied that beauty is found in precision, not in size. The schools are open again. Boys recite from wooden tablets, learning the poems of the minutiae, or the principles of filial piety. They sit for hours, moving only to bow or adjust their brushes. Some whisper to each other when the teacher's back is turned, but most remain focused. They know their fathers expect it. Their futures are shaped not by ambition, but by family, tradition, and obligation. A boy who writes well may become a scribe. One who learns quickly may be sent to study medicine or law. But most will return to their family's trade. In the countryside, a woman tends her garden. She grows herb miso, chrysanthemum, burdock root for medicine and flavor. Her hands are weathered, her sleeves tied back. She hums softly, a song her mother once sang. In feudal Japan, gardens are more than food. They are balance, harmony, small controlled places that reflect the larger world. Each stone placed deliberately, each plant chosen not just for function, but for beauty and season. Nearby, a group of village children plays a game using carved sticks and stones. They imitate warriors, shouting names of legendary generals and swinging wooden swords made from tree branches. One pretends to die dramatically, falling into the mud. The others laugh. A mother calls out, reminding them to avoid the rice paddies. They scatter, running toward the shrine at the hill's base, where a mossy torii gate leans slightly to one side. There they toss small stones at a stump, seeing who can hit it first. No one keeps score. At the same time, in a mountain pass far from the cities, a group of monks walks in silence. They wear straw hats and simple robes, carrying walking sticks and small bells. They beg for food not because they are poor, but because it humbles the spirit. Villagers bow when they pass. A farmer offers them pickled radish. A child gives them a dried persimmon. They thank him with a chant. The bells chime softly as they walk away. Their journey is endless. Later in the afternoon, clouds gather over the western sky. The air thickens, and the scent of rain mixes with that of earth and grass. People begin to close shutters. Children are called indoors. Farmers gather their tools. The rain begins gently, then grows stronger, splattering over rooftops, running down the sides of clay walls, collecting in buckets and stone basins. Inside, families pause from their chores. They sit together by the hearth. Rainy days are a time for mending clothes, sharpening blades, or weaving straw sandals. In the home of a merchant, ledgers are reviewed by candlelight. Transactions recorded in small, precise characters, debts noted, orders prepared for next week's delivery. The merchant's son watches quietly. He is learning, not from a teacher, but from repetition, from seeing what must be done. The merchant does not rush. Each entry must be correct. A single mistake may cost him a season's profit. Feudal Japan was not a place for errors. Precision was a virtue, not only in swordplay, but in ink and rice, in words and weights. Evening comes again, the rain lightens. Frogs begin their songs. Fireflies appear, blinking along the edges of the flooded rice fields. Women prepare miso soup and barley tea. A man carves a wooden ladle by lamplight, smoothing the edges with a worn cloth. A grandmother tells a story about a mountain spirit who led a lost boy back home. The children do not interrupt. They listen, eyes wide, hands folded in their laps. Outside, the world grows quiet once more, and as the day ends, we return again to that stillness, that patterned life of quiet endurance, of deep respect for role, for rhythm, for place. In this world, there is no freedom in the modern sense, but there is purpose, there is form. There is the kind of life that leaves little space for wondering what might have been. Every hour is accounted for. Every movement is part of something older than the self. In feudal Japan, you would not last a day not because of hardship alone, but because of the weight of tradition, the rules that never bend, the silence that fills every gap. But listening to that world, from far away and long ago, perhaps you begin to feel its rhythm, and perhaps, in that rhythm, you begin to drift. The new day begins before the sun rises. In a modest thatched farmhouse tucked between terraced fields, A rooster calls out once. Then again, the sound echoes across the valley, announcing the inevitable return of duty. Already, the house begins to stir. A mother stokes the hearth, gently breathing onto the embers until they glow, feeding them bits of twigs before adding thicker branches. She does not speak. The sound of crackling wood is enough to mark the start of the day. The children, still blinking sleep from their eyes, pull on their garments, simple homespun robes tied with sashes. They move slowly, not yet fully awake, but aware of what is expected. The eldest child gathers a basket for kindling. Another prepares to fetch water. From the nearby stream, no complaints are spoken. This is how mornings always begin. The rhythms are set by the land, by the sun, and by the seasons. Out in the fields, the farmer inspects the soil. He crouches low, rubbing damp earth between his fingers. His hands are calloused and darkened by years of labor. He glances at the sky, not for signs of rain or clear skies, but to gauge how long he has until the sun stands overhead. He has no clock, no hourglass, but he knows time. He wears it on his skin and in his bones. On the outskirts of the village, a bamboo grove creaks softly as wind passes through. Among the stalks, a group of itinerant workers sets up camp. They sleep beneath a simple oilcloth, and their belongings are few woven hats, knives, flintstones, and a pot for boiling rice. These workers travel from province to province, offering their strength for seasonal harvests, wall building, or repairs. No home binds them. No land bears their name. They are part of the world, yet belong nowhere in it. Back in the village, the headman sits cross-legged, examining a scroll. It contains the latest decree from the regional daimyo tax instructions. Rice levies, expectations for this year's militia contributions. The script is difficult to read, not due to illegibility, but because of its careful formality. The language is polite, indirect, layered with subtle commands. Nothing is stated harshly, but nothing can be disobeyed. The headman frowns slightly and places the scroll down. He knows what must be done. He will gather the villagers that evening, at the castle in the nearest domain center. The lord's retainers are engaged in preparations. A traveling inspector from Edo is expected to arrive, sent by the shogunate to assess the condition of the roads, the rice stores, and the general loyalty of the local administration. Though the daimyo himself is not at home, he has been required to live in Edo as part of the alternate attendance system. His stewards make every effort to present order and prosperity. Flags are cleaned and rehung. The gatehouse is swept repeatedly. Even the guards practice holding their spears in perfect formation, as though perfection might somehow avert scrutiny. The inspector's journey is long, carried out in a flanked by attendants and scribes. His progress is slow but deliberate. Villagers along the road bow as he passes, though they know nothing of him. Some offer vegetables or millet cakes. He accepts little, but offers thanks with a nod. He is not cruel, only observant. Every detail he records. How clean are the bridges? How straight the paths? Whether the peasants bow low enough? Whether the innkeeper's daughter wore proper footwear? All of it matters. Along the same road, a ronin walks alone. His hair is unkempt. His sandals are worn thin. He carries his swords not proudly, but with a burdened weariness. Once he served a lord, but that service ended perhaps through war, disgrace, or quiet dissolution. Now he wanders without direction. Towns are wary of his presence. He avoids lingering at night. He eats salted radish and drinks from a stream. He no longer dreams of glory, only sleep. In a distant seaside village, boats return from the water. The fishermen haul in their catch small silver sardines, squid, and the occasional bream. They work quickly, for the sun grows hot. Flies gather near the nets. The fish are packed in straw and sent off to be dried or salted. A boy watches as his father cleans a net. He has done this since his first memory. He wonders if he will ever do anything else. The waves lap against the shore, always the same, always pulling forward, then back. Back in the mountainous interior, a shrine maiden sweeps the stone steps leading to a small hilltop altar. Her movements are slow and purposeful. She pauses occasionally to straighten votive offerings left by villagers' coins, folded paper, rice cakes on wooden stands. The altar is simple, but it carries centuries of reverence. Fox statues guard the torii gate. Moss covers every surface, but the shrine remains untouched by neglect. It is part of the breath of the forest. Birds sing overhead. Wind passes through. Cypress trees like a breath too slow to hear. As the day lengthens, heat settles into the earth. In towns, shutters are drawn to block the sun. Travelers rest under the eaves of tea houses. A merchant reclines briefly in the back of his shop, wiping his brow with a folded cloth. Outside, the sounds of sandals shuffling across stone blend with the distant clang of a smith's hammer. Nothing moves quickly. In feudal Japan, speed is not admired. Patience is taught at a nearby estate. A young woman practices the kodo, plucking the strings with concentration. Her teacher listens with eyes closed, not judging but observing. Each note must be clear. Each phrase must breathe. The song is not entertainment. It is an expression of character, of restraint. When she finishes, she bows low, placing her hands flat on the tatami. The teacher gives no praise, only a quiet nod. She will return tomorrow, and again the next day. Later that afternoon, a messenger arrives at the estate bearing a folded letter from a relative in another province. Letters are rare and valued. The calligraphy is neat, the paper carefully folded. The contents are modest news of a birth, a good harvest, a poem copied from a temple. Still, the letter is read aloud 3 times. Each word is considered. Each phrase is held in the mind, then folded and stored in a box made of lacquered wood. Letters are kept for decades, sometimes for generations. In a schoolroom, an instructor drills his pupils on classical Chinese texts. The boys sit with straight backs, repeating lines in unison. Their hands rest on their knees. They do not fidget. A student misquotes a line. The instructor does not scold him. He simply has the boy stand and recite it again until it is right. In this world, knowledge is not fast. It is layered, memorized, absorbed like ink into paper. As the sun begins its descent, farmers finish their work. The fields are checked one last time, fences inspected, tools stored. In the distance, drums sound from the castle town signals, marking the approach of evening. People pause, listening. Then they return to their homes. The day is nearly over. Dinner is simple rice, pickled vegetables, perhaps some soup, if miso was available. Families sit on the floor, close together. They do not speak loudly. Afterward, children are sent to wash. Elders sit near the hearth, speaking quietly about the year's changes, about temple repairs, about the neighbor's new ox. The air smells of soot and boiled barley. Outside, darkness covers the hills. As night deepens, oil lamps flicker behind paper screens. A mother rocks her child slowly, humming an old lullaby passed down from before memory. A man sharpens a tool by the door, his strokes rhythmic, unhurried. Somewhere far away, a bell tolls from a temple, marking the passage of another hour in a country where time itself walks barefoot and silent. Feudal Japan does not race forward, it waits, it continues. And in that stillness, in that unbroken chain of customs and moments, there is a quiet that seeps into the bones. It is not a place for those who seek urgency, but it is a place that holds you still, if only for a while. Perhaps that stillness is what carries you now slowly, gently. Rest. The moon once again casts its glow over the rooftops and winding roads of a countryside now grown quiet. In feudal Japan, the night was long and deep. It was a time for silence, not for activity. Even the animals seemed to know this, their movements hushed, their eyes glinting briefly beneath the eaves. The fire in the hearth has burned low, casting only soft shadows that shift gently across the tatami floor. A lone cricket sings beneath the threshold. Outside, the wind moves slowly across the rice paddies, bending the water's surface into faint ripples. At this hour, the only ones awake are those who must be a monk, tending to the final lamp at a mountain temple. A guard stationed along the outer gate of a castle town. A midwife preparing hot water as a young woman begins labor in the far wing of a rural farmhouse. No one speaks loudly, even pain is whispered. The stillness is part of life. It holds the world together. It is not to be broken unless absolutely necessary. In that same farmhouse, not far from the village boundary, the old father lies awake, staring at the beams of the ceiling. He counts them, though he has counted them many times before. He listens to the soft breathing of his wife beside him, to the muffled footfalls of a small creature outside in the grass. He does not worry, not in the way people worry now, but his thoughts move slowly across the years. He remembers the storm that washed away their second planting, the illness that took the neighbor's child, the day the local official came to raise the rice tax. All these things happened, and they passed, like seasons, like clouds, like waves brushing against stones. By dawn he is already moving. His knees creak as he stands. He ties a cloth around his head and slips outside without waking the others. There is a tool to mend, a gate hinge to tighten, a few more rows of weeds to pull before breakfast. He does not think of these as chores. They are simply the work of life. The rooster's call comes moments later, and the rest of the house begins to stir, further away. In a domain center by the river, a group of craftsmen meet outside their workshop. Their trade is lacquerware, and the items they produce are known, even in Kyoto: bowls, trays, and writing boxes, each shaped from wood, then carefully coated with layers of black or red lacquer, polished smooth between each application. Today, they begin work on a special commission, an inkstone box for a retiring magistrate. The piece will take weeks, if not months. There is no rushing it. The materials demand time, and so do the craftsmen. One begins by choosing the wood, a quiet task. He selects a plank, taps it with his fingers, holds it to the light. Another stirs the lacquer, a thick liquid made from tree sap, strained through silk and left to cure in warm darkness. The smell is sharp and earthy. Every hand knows its task. They do not speak often. When they do, it is in short, gentle phrases. The sound of their brushes, of sandpaper rubbing, of wood being gently carved, these are the sounds of the shop. Work, like life, proceeds without spectacle. A delivery boy enters the shop mid-morning with a basket of supplies. He bows, places the goods on the mat, receives his coin, and departs. He says no more than a few words. He has 6 more deliveries to make before midday, and each one must be done properly. On his back, a scroll is tied in cloth. It is not his to read, but he wonders what it says. He never will know. The world of those who read and write is still separate from his. For now, in a nearby residence, an elderly scholar prepares his writing materials. He grinds the ink stick in circular motions against the stone slab, adding water drop by drop. The ink darkens slowly, becoming thick and rich. He tests a few brushstrokes on scrap paper. Then he begins to copy a passage from an ancient Chinese text, one he has already copied many times. The characters must flow, each stroke balanced in length and pressure. His back aches, but he continues, not because someone demands it, but because it brings him peace. In a side room, his grandson recites a poem, memorizing its pattern and tones. The boy stumbles over a line. The scholar does not scold, only gestures to try again. Feudal Japan values repetition, not quick success. The boy repeats the line, this time with more confidence. Outside, a cicada begins to sing in the warm sun. The boy looks up at the window but does not stop reciting. Down the street, a sword polisher sits, cross-legged in his workspace. Before him lies a katana, its blade dulled with age, its handle worn. It is not a new blade. It may be over 100 years old, passed down through many hands. The polisher's job is not to make it look new, but to restore its dignity. He works with stones of varying grades, his hands moving in small, precise motions. He pauses often, holds the blade to the light, inspects its edge and grain. He works not for beauty alone, but to honor the blade's history. It has seen wars. It has protected families. It deserves respect. Back in the rural areas, near a winding path lined with cedar trees, a young girl walks with a basket of herbs. She has gathered them from the wood's fuki leaves, fern tips, wild onions. Her mother will use them in the evening meal. She walks slowly, looking at the trees, the moss-covered rocks, the birds flitting from branch to branch. She does not rush. The basket is not heavy. The walk is part of the day. She passes a small roadside shrine chest, a wooden box with a thatched roof, nestled beside a standing stone. She bows slightly, presses her palms together. There is no priest here, no ceremony, just respect. She places a flower on the step and walks on. The shrine watches, silent and still, as it has for generations. Elsewhere, a carpenter begins work on a new home for a local official. The frame is already in place, wood joined without nails, using the old techniques. He carefully inspects the beams for warping, then climbs to the roof to secure the tiles. From above, he sees the village laid out beneath him, narrow lanes, vegetable patches, a pond reflecting the sky. He takes a moment to breathe in the view, then he returns to his work. The home will take time, but it will last as the afternoon turns to evening. The colors of the world shift. The sky warms to amber, the fields deepen in tone, the rooftops catch golden light. People begin returning home. A boy runs ahead of his mother, shouting about a frog he saw. An old man places a folded towel across his neck as he finishes his chores. A merchant closes his shutters, counting coins under his breath. Somewhere, a dog barks once. Then silence returns. Dinner is taken quietly. Often meals consist of rice, miso soup, pickled vegetables, and if fortune allows, grilled fish or seasonal greens. Families gather on the floor, their bowls held in both hands. The conversation is low and respectful. No one eats first. The eldest gives the nod, and only then does the first bite begin. The chopsticks are used with care. Food is not wasted. Hunger is familiar, but so is gratitude. After the meal, a grandmother tells a story about a fox who disguised himself as a priest, fooling the villagers until one day he met a monk who could see through illusions. The children listen with wide eyes. One asks a question, and the grandmother smiles softly, answering in a voice barely louder than the breeze. Outside, fireflies dance above the grass. The air smells of wood smoke and cool stone, and as the family settles into sleep, blankets are drawn over shoulders, lamps are extinguished, and the house creaks as it exhales into rest. The night begins again, not as an end, but as a return. The world grows quiet once more, and in that quiet is the pulse of a life shaped by balance, repetition, and reverence. A life where every hour has its form, and every task has its meaning. You would not last a day in this world not for lack of strength, but because you are unused to such deep, unchanging stillness. But now, in the softness of night, listening to its rhythm from afar, perhaps you can let yourself rest in it too, if only in thought, if only in dreams. Morning light returns to the village with the same gentle rhythm as always. There are no alarms, no sharp sounds, no rush, just a gradual brightening of the sky, a soft rustling of thatched roofs stirring with wind, and the occasional crow call from a nearby field. Inside the home, the family begins to wake again. Not with urgency, but with the slow, practiced familiarity of those who have greeted thousands of mornings in similar fashion. The eldest son quietly lifts the door panel to let in air. The youngest daughter stretches beneath her woven blanket, still half in sleep. In the kitchen space, water is already heating over the fire. A pot of rice simmers. Pickled daikon is placed in small dishes. A small bowl of leftover miso soup is reheated from the night before. There is no variety here, no flavors that surprise or delight in the modern sense. But there is warmth, and enough to sustain. This is what matters. The family gathers once more on the floor. They eat together, heads slightly bowed. No one speaks until the father finishes his first few bites. Outside, the day is brightening with quiet labor. Along the narrow paths between rice paddies, farmers walk in single file, their tools balanced over shoulders, their feet moving in the familiar rhythm of the soil. The water reflects their silhouettes as they pass, undisturbed by haste. They do not talk much. Words in feudal Japan are valuable, often kept for necessity rather than noise. What matters is the task ahead, the weeding, the irrigation, the patience. Time itself seems to move differently here, tied more to sun and season than to the hands of any clock. Nearby, an older farmer works slowly beside a younger one. They are father and son, though neither speaks of it. Their movements mirror one another, the older with slightly more precision, the younger with more speed. The older man occasionally gestures to a patch of earth where the roots aren't taking properly. The boy watches, listens, nods, then adjusts. There is no lecture, no praise, just the work, just the rhythm. Elsewhere in the domain, a samurai sits on the veranda of his modest home. His sword rests beside him, sheathed, silent. It has not been drawn in years. He listens to the wind move through the trees, a sound that reminds him of distant training grounds and the disciplined beat of marching soldiers. He was once posted in the capital. Now he oversees local tax collection and serves as a witness. In land disputes, the tasks are dull, and yet important. They keep the structure intact. Feudal life is built not on excitement but endurance. The samurai's wife tends to a garden just outside, growing herbs and hardy vegetables. She trims away dead leaves and gently pulls weeds from around the burdock root. Her hands are practiced, the nails kept clean but not polished. She hums softly, a song from her childhood. The tune is low and repetitive, barely audible, but comforting. A servant brings a message from a neighbor, an invitation to share tea after midday. She accepts, with a quiet nod. Such small gatherings are part of the social fabric, subtle acts of respect and community. In the heart of the domain, the ruling Lord Daimyo of the region sits in conference with his scribes. The meeting takes place in a long, airy room, with rice paper screens filtering the daylight. Scrolls lie unrolled across the floor. Reports from nearby villages are read aloud in steady voices. One mentions a slight decline in crop yields. Another details repairs needed along a bridge after last month's rains. The Lord listens, his expression unreadable. Occasionally he nods. Occasionally he strokes his chin. He asks no unnecessary questions. His decisions come slowly but clearly. When the meeting concludes, he steps into a smaller chamber to receive a traveling poet. The poet bows deeply, then recites a seasonal verse. It is about the turning of leaves on the mountainside, a metaphor for aging. The daimyo nods again, then responds with a line of his own. Their exchange is brief. The poet is offered a small pouch of rice and sent on his way. In this world, even art exists within structure and role. The poet knows not to linger. Outside the domain's borders, a traveling merchant moves slowly along a forest road. His cart creaks with weight. He carries pottery, cloth, salt, and tools. His route has taken him through many villages. Each place offers something different: a batch of dried persimmons, a small wooden comb, a story overheard in a tea house. He travels not for excitement, but because he must. His home is the road, and his days are marked by careful barter and constant politeness. He knows how to bow, how to flatter, how to leave without offense. These are as important as the goods he carries. That night, he finds a place to rest in a roadside inn. The innkeeper shows him a small room with straw mats and a simple screen door. There is a cup of warm sake and a bowl of millet porridge. Nothing more. He eats slowly, then watches the candle flicker as he lies down. He hears the sounds of insects outside, the wind slipping through the cracks in the wood. He is alone, but not lonely. This is the rhythm he has chosen. Back in the town center, a group of children plays near a shrine. They use sticks to draw patterns in the dust. One finds a beetle and places it gently on a flat rock. Another sings a nonsense song as she spins. In circles, an elderly woman watches from her porch, smiling softly. She remembers similar games. The toys are different now, and yet the laughter is the same. As dusk falls, the village returns to its quiet. Lanterns glow behind paper screens. Firewood is stacked neatly beside the hearth. Families sit close together, their conversations low and slow. The tasks of the day are done. The rice has been eaten, the tools are clean. There is nothing left to plan. In the temple on the hill, the monk lights the evening incense. The smoke rises in thin lines, curling toward the rafters. He chants a single verse, then bows deeply. Outside, the trees rustle in agreement. The night deepens. The stars reappear, the same stars that watched over these people hundreds of years ago. The same stars that watch now. Feudal Japan was not loud, it was not fast. It was not made for convenience or personal glory. It was made of countless small actions, each repeated, each done with care, each holding within it a part of something larger. A day here could be exhausting, not because of how much happened, but because of how much mattered. You wouldn't last a day not for lack of intelligence or will, but because you are used to things being different. Yet even now, if you breathe slowly and listen to the world around you, perhaps you can begin to understand, and in understanding, maybe you can sleep. The days in feudal Japan pass like clouds each, one slow, quiet, and subtly shaped by wind. There are no loud engines, no artificial lights, no ringing of phones. What exists is the steady breath of earth, the repetition of seasons, and the human figures that move within them. And now another morning has arrived, not so different from the one before it. The sun edges over the mountain ridges. Mist rises in slow curls from the rivers and wet grass. Dew coats the wood of footbridges and soaks into the hems of hakama as early risers make their way along narrow paths. The village stirs. Inside a small farmhouse, the sound of grinding stone can be heard. A mother is preparing rice for the morning meal, turning the millstone in slow, circular motions, crushing dry grains into coarse flour. Beside her, a small child sits watching. She does not complain of boredom, she simply observes. This is her world, one where food does not appear by pressing buttons, but by effort and repetition. It is not romantic, it is not glamorous, but it is enough. In another home, a boy sits before his grandfather, practicing how to bow, not for guests, but for when he will serve tea in the proper way. The bow must be timed just right, not too short, not too deep. Then the gesture with the tea bowl, then the 2 turns of the cup before offering it. They do it again and again, not because anyone is watching, but because respect, once learned, stays within a person. Outside, 2 women wash clothes by the stream. The stones beneath them are worn smooth from centuries of feet and hands. They beat the fabric with flat paddles, lifting and striking it with careful rhythm. They speak, but their voices are quiet. One asks about a neighbor's illness. The other mentions a child's lost sandal. They do not gossip, they simply speak. The sound of fabric meeting water punctuates their words. Down the road, a carpenter prepares to restore a storehouse damaged by recent rains. The beam has begun to sink. He steps around the structure, inspects the joints, tests the roofline with his eye. He has no measuring tape, no digital level, just his experience. He scratches his chin, then nods once to himself. He returns to his tools and begins. The saw moves slowly. The wood smells of age and resin. The day begins in dust and focus. In the nearby castle town, the rhythm is more structured. The gates are opened with practiced ceremony, guards in position, watchers on the towers. Inside, a small group of servants sweep the stone paths with bundled twigs. Each stroke of the broom is calm, even reverent. Cleanliness is not just for comfort, it is a kind of order, a gesture of harmony with the world. A few merchants begin to arrange their goods beneath cloth awnings, spools of dyed thread, bundles of dried fish, jars of pickled plum. Coins are counted. Customers are greeted with bows and short phrases. Everything is exchanged quietly, no haggling, just balance. The merchant hopes to make a fair profit. The buyer hopes to get what is needed. No one demands more than the world offers. In the center of this town, a teacher opens the doors of his small school. It is not a formal school, not by modern standards. The students are mostly boys from local families, some sons of samurai. Others, children of merchants. They sit on the floor in silence, their knees folded neatly beneath them. The teacher places a scroll on the stand and begins to read. His voice is steady, low, almost like a chant. The students copy the characters with ink and brush, stroke by stroke, word by word. Writing is not about speed, it is about stillness. In a shaded garden behind the school, a monk tends to a few late-blooming chrysanthemums. His robes are faded, his sandals simple. He hums as he works. The sound is not for others, just a way of marking time. He lifts a small worm from the leaves, places it gently on the soil. He waters only what is dry. The rest he leaves to the weather. At midday, the sun stands overhead, but it does not burn. The light is filtered through the trees and the fabric of wide-brimmed straw hats. Workers break for lunch beneath simple shelters. A small ball of rice, a slice of pickled radish, a sip of weak tea. There is no waste. Each grain is eaten, each wrapper saved. A breeze moves through the long grass. No one speaks for a while. Just the sounds of eating, breathing, resting. Far from the towns. In the hills above the valley, a group of ascetic monks gathers in silence. They live simply, eating only what is offered by villagers, walking barefoot on stone paths, meditating by cold streams. They believe that to escape suffering, one must detach from the material world. And so, they eat little, speak even less, and sleep beneath the stars. Their hands are rough from wood chopping. Their robes are mended with care. Their faces are lined not from age, but from a kind of inner gravity. Meanwhile, in the fields below, a mother gathers firewood with her eldest daughter. They tie it in bundles, using rope made of twisted straw. The younger children follow behind, pointing at birds, asking questions about bugs. The mother answers slowly, with patience. There is no rush. The wood must be carried, but not all at once. They will return again tomorrow, and the day after that. That evening, the air grows cooler. Smoke rises from every house as meals are prepared again. The fish are grilled, the miso is stirred, the rice is fluffed. Families gather again, in silence or in murmurs, their backs straight, their eyes lowered toward bowls. Afterward, some play games with flat wooden pieces or cards. Others simply sit by the door, watching the fireflies gather near the riverbanks. There is peace, but not from luxury. It is the peace of order, of knowing your place, of doing your task. When darkness falls fully, lamps are extinguished, one by one. A baby cries in a neighbor's house. A dog barks once. Then quiet returns, deep and wide. The kind of quiet that modern ears rarely know. It wraps itself around the beams of the houses, slides under doors, rests in the folds of linen. The people of this world sleep not because the day has ended, but because it is time. You would not last a day in this world, not because you lack strength, but because you were not trained in slowness. You were not raised to expect repetition. But now, as your body rests, as your breath softens, perhaps you can imagine what it felt like to live without hurry, without noise, without demand. A world where the day moved at the speed of your feet, your hands, your breath. Let it carry you into dreams. Let it carry you home. The sun, once again, peeks gently over the wooded hills of the eastern horizon. Its light does not flood the valley all at once. Instead, it touches the treetops first, then glints across the tiled roofs of the nearest homes, then slowly makes its way into narrow alleys and open fields. There are no alarms, just the sky slowly becoming pale, and the soft stirring of those who have lived this rhythm every day of their lives. Inside a modest home near the edge of the village, a widow begins her morning routine. She is not young, and her joints move stiffly, but her motions are deliberate. She folds away her bedding, brushes the tatami with a broom of rice straw, and prepares a small breakfast: rice, miso, and a pickled plum. Her husband died in a local skirmish many years ago, but she never left the house they built together. She lives with her memories, her shrine, and the gentle silence of age. Outside, the street is still empty. A few chickens cluck softly in a pen somewhere. Water drips slowly from a bamboo pipe. The village is waiting for movement, for heat, for footsteps. Slowly, the daily pulse returns. A merchant opens the shutters of his shop and places a bucket of water at the door to sweep away dust. His goods are simple: fabric, fans, candles, ink. He does not expect many customers today, but he opens on time all the same. A messenger passes through, traveling quickly but without urgency. His job is to carry word from one local lord to another, and he moves lightly along the narrow roads, his sandals kicking up small clouds of dry earth. He carries no weapon, only a scroll case, tightly sealed and bound with cord. No one stops him. Everyone recognizes the uniform. His path is silent, except for the sound of the wind brushing past tall grasses. Elsewhere, a group of workers repairs a water wheel along a canal. It is an old structure, creaking under the pressure of time and water. The men work with rope, wedges, and great care. Their tools are few, and their strength is in patience, not force. One of them, a young man new to the job, watches closely as the elder shows how to check the slats for rot. He does not speak unless asked a question. It is not his place, but he watches with full attention. One day it will be his task to lead this work. A monk passes the same canal, carrying a cloth-wrapped box of medicinal herbs. He is known in the nearby villages for treating wounds and fever with mixtures of bark, root, and fungus. His knowledge is deep, passed down through years of study and observation, not through books. He stops at a household where a child has fallen ill. He does not panic. He checks the child's pulse by touching the wrist with 3 fingers. He inspects the eyes, the tongue. Then he prescribes a warm infusion of ginger and dried orange peel. No payment is requested. The mother bows deeply. The monk departs as quietly as he arrived. Near the town's edge, a young woman learns the art of weaving. Her grandmother sits beside her, showing her how to work the loom with even pressure and proper rhythm. The pattern is simple, but the technique is strict. A mistake early in the weave will echo through the entire fabric. So she moves slowly, listening to the creak of the frame and the thump of the shuttle, thread over thread, day after day. This is not just cloth, it is skill and time made visible. At midday, a faint bell rings from the temple. It is not loud, but its sound carries. It marks the hour when all who can take rest do so. Workers return home. Students close their brushes. Merchants sit in the shade. Meals are small, just enough to satisfy: rice, soup, and vegetables stewed in soy and water. Maybe a slice of dried mackerel, if it was a good morning. Afterward, many sit quietly, some nap. It is not considered lazy. It is simply the natural pace of life. In the early afternoon, the castle prepares to receive a visitor inspector from the shogunate. The castle is not immense, but it is clean, symmetrical, and protected by layered walls and carefully raked gravel. Servants dress in white to greet the official, who arrives on horseback, accompanied by 2 guards. They speak softly at the gate, then proceed into the inner garden. The lord of the domain bows formally and invites his guests to tea. The tea is served in silence. Every movement, pouring, offering, sipping, is precise. They speak of taxes, irrigation, and the condition of bridges. Nothing is dramatic. The visitor is pleased that the local rice yield matches expectations. The lord receives a scroll bearing the shogunate's seal. It is a formal confirmation of loyalty and a quiet promise of protection. No great decisions are made, but stability once again is assured. In the late afternoon, the sun angles lower. Shadows lengthen. At the training yard near the castle, a group of young samurai practices with wooden swords. Their movements are repetitive strikes, blocks, retreats, stances. An old instructor calls out corrections in a firm, dry voice. There are no tournaments, no cheers, no rewards. This is not for show. This is so that if they are ever called upon, they are not surprised by fear. Every drop of sweat they shed now is meant to prevent blood later. In a home not far from the training yard, a mother teaches her daughters to embroider chrysanthemums onto linen. The threads are colored with natural dyes, boiled from leaves and petals. The work is quiet. The girls are not praised for speed, but for the beauty of small, even stitches. They chat softly, but when the pattern becomes complex, they fall into silence. Even conversation yields to concentration. As dusk settles once more, the villagers light paper lanterns. The flame flickers inside the thin rice paper, casting golden shadows. Crickets chirp from the grasses. A dog barks once and is answered by another. The streets are not loud. No one hurries. The temple bell rings again, once low and long. It is not a command. It is an invitation to let the day slip away. In one house, a grandfather tells a story to a child who cannot sleep. It is about a fox spirit who tricked a greedy man into losing his coins. The child giggles, then yawns. The story is not about danger or victory. It is about balance. Actions have consequences. The natural order must be respected. Elsewhere, a woman finishes writing a letter to her brother in a distant province. She writes with a brush, each character slowly forming in black ink. She speaks of the harvest, of the health of their parents, of the new baby. The letter will travel by courier, folded into a tight bundle and tied with string. It will take weeks to arrive, and as the night deepens, the world retreats into silence once again. No lamps glow on the roads, no wheels turn. The wind moves freely among trees. The stars are cold and distant, but steady. Over this world, sleep descends slowly, like mist over water. You would not last a day in this world. But for now, you don't need to. You can just listen, you can drift, you can rest. Morning in the highlands of feudal Japan is cooler than in the valleys. The wind carries the scent of pine and damp stone. Tiny insects hum beneath leaves, and the first rays of sunlight thread their way between tall tree trunks. A small farming village, nestled along a winding ridge, begins its quiet awakening. Smoke rises slowly from thatched rooftops. No one rushes. The day will be long and measured, and there is no gain in hurrying the sun. In one house, a father sharpens his hoe with a worn whetstone. He does not speak. The sound of metal gliding against stone fills the space, rhythmic and dry. His son watches from the doorway, holding a rope they will use to bundle the harvested millet. The boy is not yet strong enough to work the fields, but he carries water, gathers tools, and listens carefully. His time will come. In feudal Japan, no one escapes the seasons. They shape the lives of all who dwell under the mountains. Beyond the fields, a path leads into the forest where charcoal burners work. Their profession is quiet, dirty, and essential. They gather thick branches, stack them into tall piles, and cover them with earth before lighting a controlled burn from underneath. It takes days to convert wood into charcoal, and during that time, someone must always watch the smoke. If it's too pale, the fire is dying. If it's too black, the burn is too hot. The work stains the skin and fills the lungs, but without charcoal, there is no heat for iron, no fire for the potter's kiln, no flame for the blacksmith. In a nearby workshop, the potter begins shaping the clay he dug from the riverside 2 weeks ago. The air is cool, and the wheel creaks as he presses the heel of his hand into the center of a lump of clay. Slowly, carefully, he pulls the walls upward. His eyes do not leave the spinning shape. Around him sit shelves of drying bowls, and jars, some perfect, others cracked from flaws too small to see at first. He will fire them in the coming days, stoking his kiln through the night. Some will survive the flames, others will shatter. This is the nature of the craft. Back in the village center, a group of women gather to make miso paste. They soak the soybeans overnight, then steam them, mash them, and mix them with salt and koji mold before packing the mixture into ceramic vessels. The smell is earthy, sour, and strong. The process takes time, months, in fact, before it becomes the familiar flavor in every home soup. But the women work without haste. Their hands know the recipe. Their conversation is quiet and kind. No one interrupts the flow of the work. Time passes in steady scoops and presses. Along the mountain trail, a traveling musician makes his way toward the next village. He carries a shamisen wrapped in cloth and walks with a limp from an old injury. He does not beg. Instead, he trades song for rice or a place to sleep. His music is simple, soft plucks, gently sung verses, old tales made new with every telling. At the last town, he sang of the moon princess. In the next, he will sing of the ghost who waits at the river bend. For now, he walks alone, surrounded only by wind and birdsong. By the river, 2 fishermen pull their nets from the water. They do not use rods, they do not shout. Their boats are narrow and low, carved from single tree trunks. One tosses the net, while the other checks the earlier catch. Mostly carp and perch today, enough to trade, but not more. They are content. In feudal Japan, abundance is rare. Sufficiency is peace. Farther downstream, a mill turns slowly in the current. The creak of wood against water is steady, calming. Inside, a miller and his daughter tend to the stone wheels that grind barley into flour. Dust floats in the sunlight that slips through the high windows. They work in silence, each knowing the steps without needing to speak. The daughter gathers the flour into cloth bags, ties them closed, and stacks them neatly. Her hands are coated white to the wrist. As the sun climbs high, A patrol of Ashigara foot soldiers passes through the edge of the province. Their armor is simple, iron plates laced with cords, conical helmets tied beneath the chin. They are not nobles, not samurai by birth, but trained men who serve a local lord. Their task today is inspection. They carry messages, enforce taxes, check on the boundaries between domains. Villagers bow respectfully, offering water and a place to rest. The soldiers take only what is given. They are not thieves. They are part of the order. At the same time, in a distant estate, the daughter of a mid-level samurai family studies calligraphy. She kneels before the low table, brush in hand, copying lines from a scroll of poems. Her tutor watches carefully, not for mistakes, but for the movement of her wrist, the balance of ink, the composure of her breath. The character for quiet must be written quietly. The one for river must flow. This is not merely writing. It is training the soul to move with control. As afternoon fades, the blacksmith's forge roars to life. The smith brought and soot-stained, shapes iron bars with hammer and tongs. Each blow lands with a clang that echoes through the valley. Today he is making nails, not weapons. Nails to repair the storehouse that holds rice for the coming winter. He works until the light dims, wiping sweat with the back of his hand, his face red from the heat. His apprentice pumps the bellows and gathers finished pieces into a box lined with straw. By twilight, the torches are lit along the walkways of the larger homes. Their flames flicker, lighting the painted eaves and bamboo fences. People begin their evening chores, bringing in tools, feeding animals, folding laundry from the line. The rhythm is always the same. There are no shortcuts, no end to the cycle. What was done yesterday will be done again tomorrow. A boy, tired from study, sits with his grandfather beside a lantern. The old man sharpens a bamboo flute with a knife. He plays a few quiet notes, and the boy listens. It is a melody older than memory. The boy hums along. He does not know the story behind the tune, but the notes speak to him in a language of rest. In the temples, monks chant the evening sutras. Their voices rise and fall like wind through pine needles, soft, low, without urgency. Candles burn, casting long shadows across the worn floorboards. Outside, the bell rings again. Once, then silence. The day has folded itself closed, and as darkness fills every valley, and the stars come quietly into view, the people of this world return to sleep. Their homes are modest, their dreams are not grand, but their world is in balance, sustained by effort, tradition, and quiet persistence. You would not last a day in this world. But here, in the hush of imagined time, you are allowed to pause, to listen, to rest. The moon is low and pale, its light silvering the curved tiles of the rooftops, and glinting off the still surfaces of water jars and pond pools. In the stillness before dawn, the world is suspended in breath. Somewhere a rooster calls into the cool air, not urgently, but with the weight of habit. Soon, the village will wake again. Not with sudden noise, but with the soft creaking of doors, the whisper of straw sandals on packed earth, and the rustle of cloth robes being adjusted over shoulders. It is the beginning of another unremarkable, irreplaceable day. In a small house, near the edge of a rice paddy, a woman kneels in front of a small altar shelf. It is a kamadana decorated with paper streamers and offerings of salt, rice, and water. Her movements are slow and reverent as she claps twice, bows, and offers thanks. She does not ask for wealth or power. She prays for safety, for a good planting season, for no injuries, for peace. She is alone, but she is not lonely. In feudal Japan, the ancestors are always near, and the gods are present in wind, wood, and stone. Outside, a farmer and his brother walk toward their field, tools carried on shoulders. The air is cool, and their breath clouds slightly as they speak quietly. There is no machinery, no engine, just their footsteps, and the call of a crow perched on a wooden fence. They begin to work the rows with hoes, clearing weeds, patting the soil smooth with their hands. They check the channels for water flow, gently lift a shoot here, adjust a stone there. This is not a job, it is survival. Rice does not grow because you demand, it grows because you cooperate with earth and time. At the village well, a girl fills 2 wooden buckets. The pulley groans faintly as the rope coils and uncoils. She balances the water across a yoke on her shoulders. Her walk is slow but practiced. She is one of many who fetch water every morning. She does not complain. She knows which stones are loose along the way, where to pause to adjust the weight, when to step aside for others. The well is not just a place of labor. It is where greetings are exchanged, where news spreads, and where the rhythm of the community is maintained. A little farther on, an old man kneels beside a moss-covered stone. He carries no tools, only a damp cloth. He wipes the carved name slowly, clearing away the green film that rain and time have left behind. This is the grave of his brother, who died decades ago in a village dispute. There is no ceremony, no flowers, just the act of cleaning, the quiet acknowledgement of memory, and the silence that follows. In this world, grief is not loud, it is patient. It endures in rituals, gestures, and seasons. In a narrow street, a traveling paper seller begins his day. He carries sheets wrapped in cloth, tied neatly with string. His wares are not bright, they are plain and simple, suitable for copying sutras, for sending letters, or for practicing brush. He stops at a merchant's house to exchange paper for rice, and then again at a temple, where a monk selects several sheets to use for scripture. The paper seller bows, receives a pouch of barley, and moves on. His entire business is folded into fabric and carried on his back. By mid-morning, a teacher gathers several children beneath a plum tree, outside a local storehouse. They kneel in a line, holding brushes and inkstones. Their task today is to write a poem from memory. Atanka praises spring. The teacher walks slowly behind them, occasionally pausing to correct a stroke or point out an imbalance in a character. He does not raise his voice. Learning is not forced here. It is like tending a small plant, constant, slow, and dependent on good conditions. Elsewhere, a midwife prepares herbs for a woman in her final month of pregnancy. The room smells of mugwort and dried ginger. The walls are paper thin, but within them is great care. The midwife checks the mother's pulse, looks at the color of her eyes and skin, and offers advice on posture and rest. She does not use instruments. Her knowledge comes from decades of attending births, of listening to the body, of remembering how breath changes just before life emerges. No one in the village questions her. She is trusted more than any scroll or lord. Along the road, a procession of laborers carries bundles of reeds. These will be used to repair thatched roofs ahead of the rainy season. The bundles are tall and thick, bound with twine. They move in silence, save for the soft brushing of reeds against their backs, and the steady rhythm of feet on dirt. Each roof in the village requires maintenance. No one is exempt. A thatched roof cannot be ignored, leaks, shifts, and becomes a haven for birds if left unattended. So every spring, the villagers come together to fix what must be fixed. At noon, the meals are taken quietly. No one eats alone, but no one speaks much either. A bowl of rice, a side of greens, a piece of pickled radish, maybe miso if there was. Time to prepare it. Children eat with both hands on the bowl. Elders eat more slowly, and all are careful not to waste. Chopsticks are held properly. Nothing is thrown away. Even the water used to rinse rice is poured at the roots of trees. In this world, care is shown not just to people, but to food, tools, and soil. Later in the afternoon, to carpenters work on a new storage shed at the temple. Their tools are few: a saw, a plane, a chisel, and a wooden mallet, but their skill is evident in every joint. There are no nails, used only wooden pegs, fitted so tightly the walls seem to breathe as one piece. They speak very little, only a few words to measure, to check alignment, to suggest where to brace a beam. The scent of fresh-cut cypress fills the air. By evening, they will have placed the ridge beam, bowed in quiet thanks, and packed their tools away for another day. Elsewhere, a scholar reclines near his window, reading by the last light of day. The scroll before him is a treatise on medicinal mushrooms, imported from China decades ago. He notes the symbols for reishi and shiitake, studies the preparation methods, and compares them to what he has observed in the local forests. He does not write in haste. Each annotation is a small world. He dips his brush, breathes deeply, and records what must be remembered for the next generation. As evening settles, the rice paddies turn to mirrors. The reflected sky becomes lavender and soft gold. Frogs begin to sing in slow pulses. In one home, a mother sews a patch onto her son's robe. In another, a man carves a wooden ladle by firelight. Children chase fireflies, then are called in to wash and sleep. The day closes not with excitement, but with the comfort of repetition. By night, the sounds of the village thin to almost nothing. Just wind in the grass, a distant hoot of an owl, the faint trickle of water in a bamboo pipe. The lanterns are lowered, the futons are unrolled, and one by one, homes grow quiet, as if the very breath of the land is slowing with them. You would not last a day in this world, but you do not have to. It is enough to imagine it, to let it wash over you like a slow-moving stream. You are safe now. You are quiet now. You may rest. The mountains loom in gentle silence, their outlines softened in the morning haze. In the valley below, mist clings to rooftops, to narrow paths, to the curved backs of workers already bent to their tasks. The sun, still low, casts long shadows that shift slowly with each passing minute. Time here does not move in leaps. It drifts, it lingers, it follows the habits of the land. In a weaving house just outside the village, a woman sits at her loom. The wooden frame creaks faintly as she moves the shuttle back and forth. The threads are dyed with indigo, dried in the sun, and stretched tight with careful fingers. Each pattern takes days, sometimes weeks to complete. The cloth is not for luxury. It will become a robe, perhaps, or a futon cover. The beauty lies not in extravagance, but in quiet regularity. The weaver hums softly as she works, her rhythm uninterrupted by time. Outside, a young boy tends the silkworms. He checks the trays of mulberry leaves, removes old ones, and makes sure the air stays cool and dry. The silkworms are silent, eating constantly, leaving behind small pellets and thin strands. He is not old enough to reel silk yet, but he knows how to listen. The silkworms do not speak, but they have needs, and in this world, being useful is the surest path to belonging. Along the nearby hillside, a cooper shapes a round wooden tub. His tools are simpler knife, a hammer, a strip of iron for binding. He fits the staves together, tapping each piece into place. There is no glue. The seal is made by skill and pressure. These tubs will be used for fermenting vegetables, storing grain, or carrying water. He does not mark them with his name. The work is anonymous. But within every groove and joint is a quiet pride, passed down from master to apprentice. In a shaded garden behind a small home, two sisters pick herbs for drying. They are not wealthy. Their garden is no larger than a kitchen mat, but within it grows everything they need. Shiso, green onions, daikon, burdock root. They work with quiet efficiency, laying each stem carefully onto straw mats. Later they will hang the bunches from the eaves, where they will crisp in the breeze. Some herbs will be used for medicine, some for flavor, and some will be saved for winter. In the temple at the far end of the village, a monk sweeps the path with a wide bamboo broom. His robe drags slightly as he moves, and his bare feet make almost no sound on the stone. Leaves fall around him. He does not rush. The sweeping is not a task to finish. It is the task itself. Each movement is a breath, each breath a step. In this world, even labor is a form of stillness. Inside the temple, another monk prepares ink for copying sutras. He grinds the ink stick on a stone slab, adding drops of water until the mixture is smooth. He does not hurry. The copying of scriptures must be done with a clear mind and calm heart. The brush touches the paper like a feather, each stroke carrying the shape and weight of 100 years of repetition. Nothing here is done once. Everything is done again, and again, and again. Near the temple gate, a carpenter repairs a broken wheel. It belongs to a cart used to carry firewood. The wood has splintered at the rim, so he cuts a new piece from seasoned cedar, shapes it with his plane, and fits it without nails. He works with his mouth closed, his attention wrapped tightly around the curve of the wheel. A good wheel must turn smoothly. In this world, small things must be made strong. By the village square, a tea seller sets up her stall. She carries 2 small pots, a box of leaves, and a cloth to spread across a low bench. Her customers are ordinary passers-by, farmers, travelers, even children. She brews her tea slowly, letting the leaves settle. She pours with both hands, never spilling a drop. Her voice is soft, her smile small. There is no urgency. The tea is not expensive, but it is a moment of warmth, and that is worth more than coin dot in a nearby home. A grandmother teaches her granddaughter how to fold paper into shapes. They sit beside the sliding door, open to the garden. The paper is plain off-white, thick, slightly crinkled. She folds a crane, then a frog, then a simple box. The girl watches, then copies, her small hands moving slowly. The folds are not perfect, but they are hers. This is how memory is passed, not in lectures, but in repetition, in touch, in shared silence. Along the road, a merchant leads his mule, burdened with small wooden boxes. He sells combs, needles, and tiny mirrors. He walks from town to town, bowing politely, setting out his wares on a cloth in the shade. The combs are carved from cherry wood, polished until they shine. The needles are bone, smooth and fine. The mirrors are metal, cool, heavy, slightly warped. He does not shout his prices. Those who need what he carries will see him. Those who do not will simply nod and walk on. In the afternoon, the wind picks up across the fields. Farmers move quickly to tie down loose thatch, collect tools, and bring animals under shelter. A sudden gust can topple a stack of reeds or scatter drying grain. The sky darkens, not with rain, but with dust. Yet no one panics. They have seen this before. The land is not cruel, it is simply indifferent. You must learn its patterns or suffer its rhythms. By evening, the wind dies down, the air grows heavy and still. Meals are simpler when the day has been long, cold rice preserved, vegetables, a handful of salted fish. People eat slowly, speaking little. Children drift to sleep against their parents' sides. A mother hums an old song with no words. A man sharpens his knife in the quiet. The blade glints once, then is covered again. At night, the crickets begin to sing. Their chirping fills the spaces between houses, blending with the creak of wood and the sigh of wind through reeds. The stars appear one by one, small and indifferent. The moon watches all, pale and constant. A boy sneaks out to look at it, bare feet on cool dirt, his eyes wide and full of quiet questions. His father sees but says nothing. Eventually, the homes grow quiet. The lamps are lowered, the futons are unrolled. Dreams begin not in action, but in stillness. Here, the world does not shout, it breathes. And in this breath, you find rest. You would not last a day in this world. But for now, you are here, you are safe, and you are still. The dawn breaks behind a curtain of morning fog. The outlines of trees appear slowly, as if drawn in charcoal and softened with a brush of water. The mountains are no more than shadows. The rooftops were veils of dew. A crow calls, distant and coarse, and from within the homes of the village, people begin to stir. Not with alarm, but with calm. The kind of waking that has been repeated through generations. In a home built of timber and earth, a man kneels beside the hearth, coaxing the fire from last night's embers. He does not speak. He simply breathes steadily and feeds the coals with small twigs until they glow. His wife joins him, laying rice into a pot, measuring water with her eyes. The pot is balanced on a metal trivet above the fire. There are no measurements, no clocks, just experience, just patience. Outside, a field worker checks the irrigation channels. He bends low, feeling for the flow with his palm. The water is cool. He adjusts a stone here, digs away debris there. If the water does not reach the roots, the rice will not thrive. He does not complain. This is his duty. He moves from channel to channel, careful not to leave a footprint in the newly prepared soil. The fields wait in silence, green blades standing like rows of soldiers under the sky. In another home, a potter prepares clay. His hands, thick with calluses, move through the cool earth with practiced calm. He adds water, kneads, and turns the mass slowly. Behind him, shelves of bowls dry in the shade. They are not fancy. They will be used for soup, rice, pickles. Some may break, others may chip. But for now, each one is whole. He sits at the wheel, turning it by foot, and begins again. A new bowl, a new form. The rhythm of creation repeated. Near the shrine, a woman sweeps the steps. The broom is worn, the leaves are many. She does not hurry. She moves one pile at a time, letting her movements align with breath. She bows before the small torii gate, straightens a paper charm fluttering in the wind, and sets a tiny offering of salt and sake on the wooden ledge. No one is watching, but the gods might be. And even if they are not, the act matters. On the dirt path leading toward the forest, two children carry baskets for mushrooms. They have been taught which ones to look for, brown-capped ones with gills, like fine threads, small white ones that grow in clusters at the base of trees. They walk quietly, pointing now and then, crouching to examine. The forest is cool and dim. Insects hum, and far above, a bird calls. They gather slowly, not taking too much. Enough is enough. Elsewhere, a woman tends to indigo dye. The vat is deep and still, the liquid dark as night. She stirs it slowly with a wooden stick, her sleeves tied back. A bundle of cloth soaks nearby. When pulled from the dye, the cloth is green at first, then turns blue as it meets the air. She hangs it from a rod to dry, its folds dripping silently. There is something sacred in the transformation. The blue is not bright. It is the blue of rivers, of shadows, of old stories. At the smithy, a blacksmith and his apprentice shape nails. Not swords, not armor, just nails, for beams and tools. The fire bellows and sparks fly. The hammer strikes are even and careful. The apprentice watches closely, learning the temper of metal, the timing of heat. A mistake is easy, perfection is slow. Sweat drips from their brows, and the air smells of ash and iron. But there is no waste. Every piece has its purpose. In the middle of the day, a group of villagers gather at the edge of the road to repair a small bridge. The old planks have softened from rain. New ones are brought down from the hill. There are no overseers, just neighbors. One man holds the beam, another hammers, a third checks the rope fastenings. They speak little, nodding instead. A woman brings tea. A child watches from the side, holding a length of twine. The bridge is not grand, but it is needed. And so it is built up by the market stall. An elderly vendor sits cross-legged behind neat rows of dried fish. He arranges them by size and types sardines, mackerel, eel. The sun bakes down, but he stays under his reed canopy, fanning himself. Slowly, a young woman approaches, selects 3 fish, and bows. He wraps them in bamboo leaves, ties them with straw, and hands them over with a soft murmur of thanks. The transaction is simple, quiet, respectful. At the edge of a pond, a young monk releases a turtle back into the water. It moves slowly, sliding across the mud, disappearing with a ripple. He watches until the surface stills again. In his hand, he holds a sutra scroll, but he does not read. Not yet. He breathes in, and he breathes out. The water holds its silence. Later, in the stillness before sunset, the streets echo with the soft clack of geta sandals. A group of children walk home, wooden lunchboxes dangling from their arms. They are quiet, tired from lessons and chores. A few of them peel oranges, handing slices to one another. No one rushes. The path winds between homes, past old trees and storage sheds, past sleeping dogs and water barrels. The village exhales with them. Inside a tailor's home, a man examines a kimono seam by candlelight. The thread must match. The pattern must align. He smooths the cloth, breathes, and begins. Stitch by stitch, the silence around him deepens. His cat curls on a nearby mat. Outside, the wind stirs the paper lantern. As night falls, a flute plays softly from one home. The notes drift upward, thin and slow. There is no audience. The song is not for performance. It is a way of letting go, of sliding into the evening. One note follows another, like steps on a mossy path. Dinner is taken in low voices. A bowl of hot soup, steamed vegetables, rice, pickled plums. There is not much, but there is enough. The family eats close together. The candle flickers. Someone yawns. Someone laughs softly at something remembered from earlier. One by one, lights are lowered. Shadows stretch along walls. Children curl under cotton quilts. Old men sip warm tea with both hands wrapped around the cup. Women finish their stitches and tie up thread bundles for the morning. Even the dogs sleep in silence. Crickets begin to sing again, their chorus slow and steady. The bamboo groves whisper in the night breeze. From somewhere distant, a night bird calls once and is quiet. The stars blink above rice fields, above thatched rooftops, above every slow breath. You would not last a day in this world. But here, you do not need to. Just listen, just breathe. The world is at rest now, and you may rest with it. The morning mist returns once more, folding across the narrow valley like a slow wave of breath. It softens the outline of every roof, every pine branch, every stone path leading down from the mountains. The village has not changed. The rhythm of life does not rush, it merely resumes. The first light filters through the paper walls, warming the air inside homes that have seen centuries pass. With barely a whisper. In one such home, a man stretches slowly. His back aches from the wooden floor, but he does not complain. His body has long been shaped by the floor, the tools, the rice fields. He rises without speaking and moves to the basin near the threshold. The water is cold. He splashes his face, exhales, and wipes his hands on a cloth worn smooth by hundreds of mornings. Beside him, his wife kneels to start the fire beneath the rice pot, while the children sleep a few minutes longer under heavy cotton quilts. Outside, the chickens stir. A boy, no older than 10, unlatches the bamboo pen and scatters grain across the earth. The birds cluck and move with urgency. The boy watches them a moment, then bends to check the water trough. He has done this every day for 2 years. His fingers know the smooth edges of the bowl, the slight leak near the base, the way the hens squabble when one gets too close to the feed. He hums to himself, a song with no words, only rhythm. By the river, a fisherman checks the woven traps he set the evening before. The river is still and shallow, its bottom visible in places where stones break the surface. He lifts the traps gently, careful not to scare off future catches. A few small fish flicker inside the bamboo tube. Enough for breakfast, maybe enough to dry and keep. He opens his pouch and drops in the catch one by one, grateful, but with no expression. He bows once to the water before walking back farther. Up the hillside, a woman collects water in 2 wooden buckets balanced across her shoulders. The path is narrow, the slope gentle but steady. She has walked this trail since girlhood. The buckets sway but do not spill. She passes under trees whose names she knows, not by script, but by scent, by season, by the way their shadows fall across the stones. When she reaches the home she shares with her mother and aunt, she pours the water carefully into a large clay jar and covers it with a lid of straw. On the edge of the village, an old man sits at a small table, polishing tools, knives, a square wooden ruler. His work is slow. He checks each blade for rust, wipes the handles with oil, and lays them on a cloth in the order he prefers. No one told him this arrangement was correct. He simply knows it from long habit. When he finishes, he lights a small pipe, leans against the wall, and watches the wind move through the garden. He does not expect visitors. Still, he polishes a few more. In the market area, vendors open cloth stalls and hang bundles of dried goods. One woman sells lengths of fabric dyed in pale brown and green tones. Another man lays out bundles of dried burdock root and strips of kelp. The smells are earthy, faintly sour, familiar. A farmer arrives with a cart of daikon radishes, still dusted in soil. No one haggles. Prices are quiet, gestures simple. A glance, a nod, a bow. The morning passes without rush. Children gather in the temple courtyard to learn calligraphy. The monk unwraps the inkstone, grinds the stick in water, and distributes soft brushes to the students. The paper is coarse and off-white. They kneel on mats, quiet, each one focused on a single character. Some write the character for heart. Others attempt mountain, river, or cloud. The room smells faintly of ink and tatami. When a child finishes, they bow and bring their paper to the monk, who nods but says little. The lesson is in the doing. In a shaded workshop, a basket weaver splits thin bamboo strips by hand. Each one must be the right width, the right length. She weaves them into a circular pattern, pulling the strips taut, then binding the rim with vine. These baskets will carry vegetables, rice, even coal. They will be passed from hand to hand, from home to field. She does not rush. A single basket takes a full day, sometimes longer. Each one is different, though the pattern is always the same. As the sun begins to climb higher, a man and his son walk through a patch of forest, gathering kindling. They speak in low tones, pointing to fallen limbs, stepping carefully to avoid moss. The forest smells of damp earth, and the occasional bird call echoes between the trees. They carry their bundles back in silence, the boy dragging a few too many twigs behind him. His father says nothing. The firewood will dry beneath the house, and when it is ready, it will be stacked for winter. In another house, a seamstress repairs a neighbor's robe. The tear is small, just beneath the sleeve. She threads a needle with practiced ease, her fingers moving without thought. She adds a patch of cloth to reinforce the area, small stitches nearly invisible. The robe was made decades ago. The fabric is thin in places. Still, she handles it with care, smoothing every seam. Later, she will return it folded neatly, wrapped in soft paper, with a bow of twine. By midday, the scent of food drifts from kitchen: steamed barley, miso broth, grilled fish, fermented beans. Each meal is modest, served in lacquered bowls. On low wooden trays, families eat together, legs folded beneath them, backs straight. They speak of small things, weather, crops, the neighbor's new calf, the dream someone had. No one shouts, no one rushes. The meal is a pause, a return to center. In the afternoon, a scholar in a larger home copies lines of poetry from a faded scroll. His brush glides over fresh paper, the strokes deliberate, the ink slightly glossy as it dries. He pauses often, not to rest, but to consider the shape of each character. The poem is about mist, about longing, about a bird flying over the sea. He does not need to understand every word. The rhythm matters more. Later, he will read the lines aloud to himself, barely louder than a whisper. As evening approaches, the shadows lengthen. Women gather at the well, sharing news as they fill their buckets. The sound of water and laughter mix gently in the fading light. Old men sit on porch steps, shelling beans or carving bits of wood. A traveler passes through and is offered a bowl of tea, no questions asked. He thanks them, drinks slowly, and moves on. By nightfall, the village slows further. Doors are closed, lamps are lit. In the corners of rooms, incense curls upward. Children sit near their parents, helping to sort rice or fold cloth. A grandmother tells a short story from memory about a fox in disguise, a talking turtle, a bridge that sings. Her voice is quiet, her words well-worn. The children listen, their eyes heavy. The stars appear again, faint and patient. The crickets return. The wind slips through the reeds, through the hanging laundry, through the cracks in wooden walls. A cat curls on a windowsill. Somewhere a flute plays just 3 notes before falling silent. You would not last a day in this life, but in listening, you share in it, just for now. You are welcome here, among the slow hours and quiet hands. You are safe, you are at rest. The wind rises gently before dawn, slipping through the trees and brushing the grass in low swells. It passes through the thatched rooftops and wooden slats of sleeping homes, rustling the edge of a reed screen, stirring the hem of a cloth banner. Left out overnight, the air is cool, not yet warmed by the sun, and the sky carries only the faintest silver, like the inside of an old bowl. A dog barks once, somewhere in the dark, and is silent again. The world waits for the light. Inside one home, the first footsteps begin to stir the floor. Bare feet touch woven mats. The fire is coaxed back to life with practiced breath and a small handful of twigs. A woman adjusts her hair with a simple pin, tucks her sleeves, and prepares miso soup with slices of turnip and seaweed. Her daughter sets out the bowls and wipes them with a soft cloth. The rhythm is quiet, measured. The meal is not yet served, but it is already underway. Out in the yard, a man sharpens his hoe. The blade is small, curved, and dark with age, but it still cuts well when maintained. He slides it along a smooth stone, over and over. The sound, low and rhythmic, like rain on wood. Beside him, a kettle warms slowly over coals. He will work the fields again today, as he did yesterday, as he expects to tomorrow. He does not rush. The sun is not yet up. There is time. Down near the riverbank, a young boy gathers smooth stones to line the edge of a small path behind the shrine. The stones are not large, but they must be carried one by one. He stacks them carefully, matching sizes, choosing those that will not wobble underfoot. A woman calls to him from afar, but he waits until the stack is even before answering. The stones are not perfect, but they are enough. In a workshop beside a garden, a man unwinds a length of silk thread. He weaves it slowly into a sash that will take many weeks to finish. The colors are pale blues, browns, and white sand. The pattern is subtle. He does not follow a diagram. His fingers remember the design from the cloth his father wove before him. Each thread is smoothed, pulled, and aligned. There is no sound but the brush of silk and the movement of breath by the main path through the village. A carpenter replaces the edge of a wooden gate. The old plank had begun to rot in the recent rains. He removes it with care, not damaging the frame, then shapes a new one from the lumber stored in his shed. His tools are few: a saw, a chisel, a small plane, but they are sharp, oiled, and respected. He works in silence, brushing away shavings that curl like ribbons to the ground. At the temple, the bell is struck softly, just once. It does not signal urgency. It is a reminder of the hour. A monk sweeps the courtyard, drawing long lines in the sand with each motion. A second monk tidies the offering trays, realigning the dishes of salt, rice, and incense. A third kneels in front of the scroll, reading a few verses aloud in a low voice. The tones rise and fall slowly, not to be understood by all, but to be heard by the walls, the wind, the morning. Elsewhere, a group of villagers repair the roof of a shared storehouse. One climbs while the others pass up bundles of straw. They tie them tightly to the frame, adjusting the angle so that rain will run cleanly off the slope. The roof will need redoing every few years. They do not discuss that. They know. One man hums while he works, a sound so soft it blends with the breeze. In the forest paths, two men carry logs on a pole balanced between their shoulders. The wood was cut last winter and left to dry. Now it is ready. Their steps are even, slow, and the weight is shared without words. They will bring the wood to a charcoal kiln on the hill. The fire there must be tended for many days. The temperature watched, the vents adjusted. It is not fast work, but it is good. Back in the village, a child learns to fold paper. His grandfather shows him how to crease the edges, press the corners, and form a simple crane. The paper is old, made from mulberry pulp, its surface rough but strong. The child struggles with the wings, and the grandfather guides his hand gently. When the bird is finished, they place it near the window, where it lifts slightly in the breeze, near the shrine garden. Women harvest herbs from narrow beds: green onion, shiso, chrysanthemum leaves. Each plant is plucked with care, some pinched at the base, others trimmed with small shears. They sort the harvest into baskets, laying leaves in one direction so they will not bruise. A few insects flutter out as they work, and no one minds. This is their time to dot. In the afternoon, a potter carries cooled bowls from the kiln. The glaze has set, a soft blue-green that deepens at the rims. He taps each bowl gently with his fingernail, listening for flaws in tone. The cracked ones he sets aside, the others he washes in cool water and lines on a shelf. He does not celebrate their finish. There is always more clay, more fire, more waiting. A man passes by with his ox, the cart half filled with straw mats. He greets others with a bow, adjusts the rope over his shoulder, and continues. His walk is slow. The road is uneven, but he does not complain. His journey will take most of the day. He has brought a rice ball wrapped in leaf, a gourd of water, and a quiet patience that time has not disturbed. Later, as the sun begins to sink, families gather again for evening meals. The food is warm, lightly salted, often simple rice, greens, small fish, broth. They eat together in silence, or with only a few words shared between bites. There are no distractions, no noise but the wind, the wood creaking, the fire hissing softly under the pot. The children finish first, rubbing their eyes and curling close to sleep. The men finish repairs. The women fold cloths and clean the floorboards. Outside, shoes are turned over to dry. Water jars are covered. Tools are returned to their places. And above it all, the sky darkens from orange to deep purple, and then into a wide black speckled with stars. A man lights a single lantern and carries it along the narrow path, his shadow stretched long behind him. A woman tends to a sick neighbor, leaving rice wrapped in warm cloth beside the bed. A boy writes the first characters of his name on the wall with his finger, tracing the lines in the air long after the strokes disappear. There are no clocks, no alarms, only the beat of time kept by breath, by footsteps, by the crickets who begin again their evening song. There is no hurry. There is only rhythm. You would not last a day in this life of repetition and stillness, of patience and slowness. But for tonight, you are not asked to last, only to listen, only to rest. You are among them now, gently, quietly, peacefully. The last sounds of the day fade gradually, as if the entire village has agreed not to speak. The insects hum softly in the tall grass. A night bird calls once, and then again, from the dark woods beyond the rice paddies. The air is still, but cool. It carries with it the scent of damp soil, straw, and fading smoke from the evening cook fires. The houses, barely lit from within, seem to sink into the ground like stones in water. Inside one of those houses, a grandmother tucks a quilt around a sleeping child. She moves slowly, her hands stiff with age, but her gestures practiced and sure. She pauses to brush a lock of hair from the child's brow. The child murmurs in half sleep and turns over, still clutching a piece of cloth from earlier play. The grandmother settles beside the hearth, where a few embers still glow, and she begins to unravel a piece of twine, knot by knot, folding it into her lap. In another home, a man finishes his final chore of the day, refilling the lamp with oil. He uses a bamboo funnel and holds his breath to avoid spilling. When he is done, he adjusts the wick and lights it briefly, just to check. Satisfied, he extinguishes it with a gentle breath and places the lamp on a small shelf. He turns and kneels, bowing toward a shelf of wooden tablets that bear the names of his ancestors. He offers no words, just the act itself, quiet and complete. Elsewhere, a young girl traces her finger across the floorboards, following the grain of the wood. Her older brother sits beside her, rubbing the soles of his feet. They do not speak. Their parents are still outside, checking the last of the tools by lantern light. Soon the girl will be carried to bed, her limbs already heavy with sleep. The brother will blow out the flame in the small dish beside him, and lie down with his arm across his face, near the village entrance. A lone traveler sets up for the night beneath a simple shelter made from reed mats and a tied cloth. He has walked all day and speaks to no one. He eats a single rice ball and sips water from a gourd. He removes his sandals and stretches out on the hard earth without ceremony. He watches the moon rise over the forest edge, his face calm, unreadable. The night covers him like a blanket. In the temple, a monk walks in slow circles around the courtyard, holding a small wooden bell. With each step, he rings it once, the sound barely audible beyond the walls. It is not meant for the villagers, but for the night spirits, the memories of the dead, the passing thoughts of those still awake. His footsteps are careful, deliberate. He has walked this same circle for many years. Every night, without variation. The edge of the fields, a fox appears in the moonlight. It stands still, nose high, ears twitching. Then it moves forward without sound, weaving through the grass and skirting the village paths. It pauses once beside a low wall, where the smell of dinner lingers. But it does not linger. It moves on, unseen by all but the night itself. Inside the homes, sleep comes like a tide. First to the children, whose dreams are already soft and jumbled. Then to the elders, who breathe slow and deep. Then to the mothers and fathers, whose bodies have carried and bent and lifted all day long. There is no moment of decision, only a quiet shift from wakefulness to rest. The last lanterns go out one by one, and so the village enters stillness, broken only by the occasional creak of wood, or the distant splash of a fish in the river. No one stays up late, there is no late, only night, and the waiting day that will follow. Like all days before it, you would not last a day in this life not for the labor, Not for the stillness, not for the repetition that shapes every gesture. You would miss the noise, the urgency, the variety. But here now, you are part of it, in the smallest way, in stillness, in breath, in quiet. There are no names here, no winners, no kings, no stories that twist and turn. There is only motion in circles, planting, sweeping, mending, boiling, bowing, waiting, bowing again. The past does not ask for your attention, it does not demand to be remembered. It waits patiently, silently, like the rice fields in windless air, like the sandals at the door, placed side by side, like a scroll that has been read so often, the words have faded. You are here now, among them, just listening, just breathing, and when you drift off, they remain, carrying water, folding fabric, tracing letters, mending roofs, grinding tea, always in quiet repetition, always together, always apart. You would not last a day in feudal Japan, but for one night, you have lasted long enough. Sleep well. Let the village continue without you. It always has. It always will.